Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 344 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. Our third episode in 7 days, which, Matt, I think is some kind of non-E3 record.
Might be, yeah.
Yeah. We've been going after it here towards the end of the month. The good news is, despite my surgery and everything that we went through, we're still going to deliver you guys 4 episodes of GameFace in the month of May, which I did not think was going to be possible. We were totally saved by the Sony PlayStation Showcase.
And by just how May's days were arranged.
Yeah, it all timed out, because we did the first episode of May, I think, on May 1st. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting one in the second to last day of the month. So ultimately, we ended up hitting our general quota for episodes of GameFace in May, despite all the horrible things I've been going through. And they have been horrible, Matt. So I first came back on camera a week ago, and I have not improved at all in the last week. I feel exactly the same as I did a week ago. So put another call to the doctor. My surgeon is going on vacation for 10 days. She's just like, take more pain pills. I'm like, I can't take any more pain pills than I'm already taking. I literally hit 6 hours between.
If you'd like to give me some opium, we can talk.
I don't want opioids either.
No, it's not good. Not a good scene.
But I hit the 6 hour mark, and I immediately need a pain pill. It's just like clockwork. So here I am again, 3 episodes in a week, and I still feel really crappy. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to get any answers for a while. My doctor's on summer vacation for a while. I'm just going to have to ride it out and just keep taking, I'm not even taking real pain pills. I'm taking Advil and Tylenol at this point. So anyway, never question how dedicated your boy Shane is to the patrons at patreon.com/sifted, man. I've done some crazy stuff to do shows looking back across the years. Mm-hmm. All the stuff that's happened, and I come in and do shows. So anyway, here we are. I know some of you guys I could tell by the pre-show chatter in our chat that some of you guys are excited that we may be discussing Street Fighter 6 or Diablo 4 today, because the reviews came out for both of those games today. Unfortunately, we are not. We are not in the first round of review codes. We're not in the same group as the GameSpots and the IGNs for review code. So as I was driving here, I got sent review code for one of those 2 games, and I'll probably get the other one tomorrow. So there'll definitely be a next week's show, but unfortunately not in today's show. But we still have a great show for you guys. And
oh no, there's terrible games all over the rundown. They're everywhere.
We still have a great show for you guys. There's a lot of really good housekeeping and interesting things to discuss. And Matt and I always make things fun anyway. And you guys...
Yeah, game being bad doesn't mean we're not entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like we're making you play it.
Yeah. So my goal for today... So the goal for the first show back was to make it to 2 hours. Goal for the second show is to make it all the way through the PlayStation stuff. I did it. The goal for today is to get through the whole rundown and finally do a Q&A with you guys, because we haven't done it for the last couple episodes because I started feeling rotten right at the end. So we want to try to get through a Q&A today, because we haven't answered questions from you guys for a while. So that's the goal for today. I keep setting the goals for me personally a little higher with each episode, hoping I can get there. We'll see how it goes. How's your week been, Matt? Or your 4 or 5 days since we were last together?
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah?
Played some games, ate some food.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't play a lot of video games. I played board games.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
You played any more of Zelda?
I played a little bit. I got the rest of the stages, and I tromped around the depths with my little army. And, I don't know. I'll go back to it and probably finish the main story eventually. But, I got all the cutscenes. I don't know. I did a lot of the collectible stuff. I don't have it in me to go do the Korok seed thing. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played it probably since last Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I haven't played it since we discussed it. It's 2 parts. The first part is I had to play a bunch of other games to do the show today. And 2, honestly, I just really didn't have a big draw to play it. So, and now here comes Street Fighter. Here comes Diablo for this week. Am I going to go back to it this week? Probably not. So,
yeah, there's other things to do now until much later.
Yeah, I wish I had kind of finished it in that window that I had, but I didn't. Also, I just realized that I am due for more pain pills. So you guys are going to watch me take some pain pills live on GameFace, unfortunately. But if I don't, in an hour from now, I'll have to quit the show.
Yeah, normally you have to pay extra on Patreon to see the
my only fan
stream. But
normally, if you want to see me do drugs, you have to go out with me on a Saturday night. I'm kidding. Kind of.
Depends on the time frame.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we have a great show for you guys today. I hope you guys are doing good. Chat is rocking already. People talking about Capcom is on a roll. the whole industry is kind of on a roll. We talked about this last year, that this year could quite possibly be one of the best years for video games ever. Matt, is kind of starting to shape up that way.
It's getting there.
I'm already seeing some other podcasts starting to discuss if 2023 is going to be one of the best year in gaming ever. So it's starting to materialize. This has been a really awesome year for games, and it's only going to get better. There's still tons of other awesome games that come out this year. Really excited about it. Let's see, some housekeeping before we get into the bulk of the show. First up, we wondered why the Last of Us multiplayer game was not shown during the PlayStation Showcase, and since then, we've got some updates on that stuff. First of all, it's come out that Naughty Dog has actually cut down the team size for this project, and then Naughty Dog also said that it wasn't ready to be shown. By the way, this is, just so you know, this is multiplayer from the OG version of The Last of Us. What do you think's going on over there, Matt?
I think it's a combination of nobody really wants this, and like Sony's multiplayer efforts have gone in a very different direction. And I would argue that Naughty Dog's one of the studios in their arsenal that like it would better spend its time doing more big single player boutique experiences, because that's their bread and butter, and that's what sells 10 million copies.
I said this from the beginning when we learned about this game. Why is Naughty Dog making this game?
I don't know. I mean, I never liked the multiplayer in Last of Us 1 to begin with.
Matt, I haven't liked any of the multiplayer that Naughty Dog has made.
No, that's true. I didn't like the Uncharted ones either.
Nope. I knew some people that really got into them. I never did. They just weren't. They couldn't keep my attention long enough.
No.
There are always these goofy modes. Like if I'm going to play Team Deathmatch, I'd rather just play a first-person shooter. It's just never really clicked with me for whatever reason.
We played, like, my old group and I played, when they first added, like, Uncharted 2, I think it was. We played that, and, like, we would play, like, our whole thing was we would play everything multiplayer, and we'd game it so we could, like, get all the achievements or all the trophies, and we, like, you know, set private sessions up if we could, or, like, try to get, like, just us so we could, like, you know, stage things if you needed to kill a guy a certain way. We'd, like, get on the opposite sides of the team and, like, do that. And on Uncharted 2, like, we played one night, and everyone afterwards was just like, should we just not do this anymore?
I'm good.
And that was it. That was it. Like, it lasted one day. I mean, this is a group of people that played the multiplayer on Assassin's Creed, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We played that for like a month.
Well, that was pretty unique.
And I was done with that in a week.
Yeah.
Like, it was just...
It did lose its charm kind of quickly, but it was very unique. Like, I had never played a multiplayer like that before. Don't you think it's crazy, though, that they already had this robust multiplayer option for The Last of Us, and they're struggling to put out the separate game? You already have tons of maps and other
it makes
assets
me wonder
done
what they're trying to make it.
Yeah,
that's taking that long and require. And then like, oh, we got to rework some stuff, but also we dropped the team size to like a third. It feels like it's just sort of on the way to being
canceled,
quietly removed.
It really does sound like it might be canceled, and I don't think anybody would really be all that upset about it. Like if you told somebody,
I think there's a hardcore group of people that love the first factions that'd be disappointed, but it's not like an audience that you need to like change your corporate strategy to please, you know?
Yeah, I mean, plus you have already
feels like the resources could be better put somewhere else if you're really being cutthroat about it.
Yeah,
you know, especially considering how many other online multiplayer game as a service things that they have in the pipeline.
Yeah, after the last showcase, like you just wonder, like, what is the value of this anymore?
Yeah, just from a very mercenary standpoint, like all I can think is like you have all those other things coming up that we just saw at the showcase. Wouldn't it be better served to make sure that like Naughty Dog and Insomniac and Sucker Punch and these other companies that specialize in the single player games are going to have offerings in a timely manner, like coming up?
Yeah.
More than like some kind of tacked on multiplayer spin-off.
I mean, if them stopping developing this multiplayer offshoot or whatever means we get their next single player game 3 months earlier,
I mean, I imagine it won't.
I'm all over that.
I imagine it won't.
It probably won't.
Yeah. I'm sure that Naughty Dog has all the staff they need for whatever they need for their big projects.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing to task them with.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I understand, it's like something that they wanted to do internally. Like, I think Neil likes.
Yeah, they mentioned it. Yeah.
So like, I get it, but like, you know, not every passion project makes it to print.
Yep. So. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. I'm leaning towards it eventually being canceled, but we'll see what happens. Next up, we learned this week that TikTok has taken over the world, Matt. TikTok served 3 trillion video game videos in 2022.
That's
3 trillion. To put this in perspective, in the heyday of game trailers, 2009, 2010. That's when we were serving the most videos generally. We did 1 billion views a year. And I mean, we like when we hit the 1 billion, the whole office was like, it was a celebration, and we bought in a keg, and like, it was a huge deal. We were like, oh my God, how did we serve 1 billion videos in a year? 3 trillion on TikTok, which, you know, my strategy of starting to do more shorts seems like it makes sense. I do wonder the value, because a lot of publishers and honestly a lot of platforms, really their biggest metric is time of engagement. How long did you spend? Even with YouTube's new shorts program, the number one metric that YouTube uses to decide whether to shove a short into someone's feed is what percentage of that short everybody watched. So still, that's the most important metric, is like the time that you spend watching. So I do wonder if game publishers are like, well, you know, it's 3 trillion, but we really look at it as a smaller number because the engagement's so short and so low. I don't know.
I mean, trillion is a crazy number. So, I mean, people don't, we're kind of used to things.
I don't think people even understand what a trillion is.
Trillions and millions. We were used to things getting millions of hits, and sometimes things get billions or make $1 billion. But you got to remember, that's 1,000 billions.
Yes.
Like,
and a billion is 1,000 millions.
Yeah, 1 million seconds is it's about like 11 days.
Yeah, I don't even know, actually.
And 1 billion seconds is 33 years.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
A trillion seconds is 33
millennia,
1,000 years. And they got 3 trillion views.
Yeah,
it's
insane.
Work that out to how many per person. That's a little disturbing.
It really is. Yeah,
people watching hundreds of these things. I mean, obviously you can't because they're very short.
It's 20, 30 seconds at a pop. I mean, my wife loves TikTok.
Some of the guys who invented Vine are like, what the fuck?
I don't understand it. And why did they kill Vine?
I don't know.
Right as this all took off.
I don't know.
It is the weirdest thing ever.
All they had to do is let you do it more than 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think they had.
They had already.
Yeah. It was right there.
I'll never understand it.
They just let it go.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But, I mean, again, you know, this is like another paradigm shift. Like back when YouTube started taking over and Game Trailers was put out of business by YouTube, this is kind of the next paradigm shift for games media, is what are you doing on TikTok? What are you doing on YouTube Shorts? Very powerful. You can't even comprehend what 3 trillion is. The human brain can't even really comprehend it.
Trillion is a ridiculous number.
It really is. Yeah. So congratulations to TikTok. Meanwhile, there's random states and countries that are trying to outlaw it, and like
Montana already did it. I'm like,
did it?
Yeah. I don't know how you enforce that.
I don't think it did. It's just,
they passed a thing that says that. But I'm like, how do you make that happen?
I don't think you can.
You go check everybody's phone. I mean,
you go to the ISPs.
I mean, the idea is that you would not be able to download it from the Apple Store or the Google Store in Montana.
Right.
But I don't even know if Montana can do that to
I mean,
Apple
here's a good
Google.
analog, actually, is sports betting. So I'm a huge sports guy. I'm not really into sports betting at all. But, like, when a new season will kick off, like, I want to bet on the Steelers winning. Like, right now, the over-under on the Steelers' upcoming season is, like, 8.5 games. So you can bet the over or the under on whether they win 8.5 games. Like, I want to bet the over. I just want to put down, like, $200 on the over. And if they win 9 or more games, then I win, like, $200 or whatever. Like, and then I just let it ride. It's like one bet that lasts for like 6 months, and you're kind of engaged with it the whole time. So when I was in Pennsylvania, where sports betting is legal, I downloaded an app. And then I came back here, and I was able to open the app and use the app okay until it came the time to place the bet. And then the app was like, sorry, you're in California. We can't let you place the bet. So my guess is probably that's how something like that would happen. I don't know, but...
Yeah, but also TikTok doesn't care.
Right.
So, like... Yeah. And maybe Apple doesn't either. I mean, I don't know. Like, basically, I think you could leave Montana, download the app while you're out of the state, and watch it when you get back.
And then come back and use it.
Yeah. Because it's a different thing to watch something on, like, your own ISP versus, like, you know, like making a transaction on a sports betting app. I think that's easier to track.
Yeah.
Also, like, the fact that I don't know how anyone, you know, right or left, Republican, Democrat, young or old, whatever, would react to the idea that Montana knows what button you're pressing on your phone at all times. I mean, they might anyway, but, like...
Nobody wants to think that
you
that's
don't
the
want
case.
to think about it.
It's
right?
true.
Same way people don't want to think about what, you know, Alexa's doing while they're not talking to her.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't have any of those.
I don't either, actually. Yep. Another smaller story from the week. We found out that PlayStation is outselling Xbox 4 times over in Europe. So for every Xbox sold in Europe, there are 4 PlayStation 5 sold. We were talking earlier.
I mean, that sounds about right for most of history, other than the 360 generation.
Yeah, I think it might be a little. I think it was always 2-to-1 generally, but this generation, for whatever reason, it's PlayStation.
And again, I'm saying some of that is because you can go get a PS5 now.
Yeah,
and it's harder to get an Xbox.
Probably true. But also going back to the UK is at this point the only territory who has decided that acquiring Activision Blizzard is a bad idea. South Korea just okayed it today. All around the world, everyone's like, yes, except for the UK. So you wonder, people brought up, well, is it worth it to just stop selling to the UK market? It might be.
Probably.
If you're selling one console to every 4 PlayStation 5s, is it worth it to stay in there if they're going to crash your deal? I don't know if it is.
Not really.
I mean...
Also, like, I don't know. If I were Microsoft, I'd be looking at how Blizzard's handling some of this Diablo stuff and be like, do we want to buy these people?
Right.
Jeez, like, that statement about Diablo was really embarrassing.
Which one?
Or it wasn't a statement. It was a Q&A with, like, user questions. And, like, someone went through and looked up all the Twitter handles from the questions. They were all non-existent accounts have been created that day who had never said anything.
Wow.
Like, it was all bullshit.
Faked.
Like
that's embarrassing.
Somebody put a picture of that one guy who like asked about the Immortal, the mobile game, and they said, like, don't you have a phone or whatever?
Yeah.
And like, don't you guys have phones? Like whatever that was. And he put a picture of the kid who asked the question for that, and it was like, this man changed everything about how Blizzard does business, and he kind of did. It's like,
it's funny.
So yeah, it's. I mean, I was like, I'm not a huge Blizzard person anyway, but it's like, I'm like, what happened to this company? Like, it's so embarrassing.
Just a complete U-turn.
Especially because it's like, you can just let Diablo 4 stand on its own. I played that game. It's good.
Yeah.
It's real good.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to fucking do that.
Dude, they have now put out 4 launch trailers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's going to be a 5th.
Probably.
5 launch trailers for one game. The media blitz for Diablo 4 has been insane.
I mean, I understand that in the sense that at the very least, when I'm planning that launch, say, in their shoes, like, I'm like, we got to get out from under the Zelda discourse.
Yeah.
Like, we know Tears of the Kingdom is going to still be the hotness. We have got to make more noise than that.
And by the way, reviews are up on Sifted right now for Diablo 4, and its Metacritic is at an 88 right now.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised it wasn't a little bit higher, but still a great score.
Same, but it's getting dinged a little bit for some of the online stuff and some of the perceived microtransaction sort of season pass shit. Which I get. There's just some people, including in the reviewing world, who just do not want to be reminded of that while they're trying to play.
But it was hilarious. Like, some of these reviews, they're like, I've spent 88 hours playing this game. I've loved every minute of it. I know I'm going to play this game for another 150 hours, an 8 out of 10. I'm just like, what? Okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's on my fantasy team, and an 88 is way higher than I thought at the beginning of the year it was going to get. Like, I think I got it, with like my 4th or 5th pick or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I expected it to be around there. But I didn't fully trust it after Diablo 3.
Yeah.
I'm like, there was always a chance it could they could make the wrong moves, and because we would have known by the beta if that had happened, but it didn't.
Yeah.
I know there's some complaints about some of the balance changes they made in the last the stress test or whatever, and like there's a couple things about how they nerfed the necromancers. I don't remember anymore because I honestly don't care that much.
Yeah.
Because all that stuff, it was like, oh no, they nerfed this. Like, every time someone says shit like that, they're talking about like end game high level stuff you will probably never see.
Yeah, I definitely will never see it. Yeah. Honestly, like, I'll finish the campaign and I'll be done.
Yeah.
Like, if they introduce a new class, I'll go and play that class and then I'll be done. I'm not like the big end game Diablo guy. That's not me. But again, an 88 is a great score. It could go up a little bit, could go down a little bit. But bottom line is, it appears that Diablo 4 has delivered, which was not a given after what's been going on with Blizzard. Next up, something that might make some people sad. It may make you sad, Matt, that Nintendo patched out the item duplication glitch in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom this week. I did not go hog wild with it when it was working. I literally only duplicated like 10 like gems or something, enough to get like one set of armor.
Yeah, I duplicated some things to upgrade equipment when I was like, oh, I need one more diamond. Fuck you. I'm not running around looking for that.
I didn't get any diamonds.
You know what I duplicated the most? Bombs.
Yeah. Because they don't give it to you.
Because like there wasn't enough bombs early on.
Yeah.
That was my problem. It was like I was like making equipment.
I kind of regret that I didn't indulge more than I did because I know eventually I'm going to need diamonds. I have 0 diamonds right now.
Yeah, they're very rare.
And
unless you want to buy them you can buy them from a Goron for 1,000 rupees.
Get rupees. I mean, it's like
getting rupees is a whole other thing.
Yeah. And then they did find a new glitch today, but it only works specifically with, I think, 2 different items. So it's looking like there's an ability to still get free money. I mean, it's just a shame that, the economy was kind of broken in the game, that people had to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he couldn't get all that stuff legitimately, but it would have taken you
oh my God, the work and the time. No, thank you. I don't think anybody wanted to do it, which is why everybody used the glitch.
Yeah. I felt like then there's multiple glitches and there's a number of things. Like I mean, I know like the main glitch was like the one where you jump in the air and hold things and drop them.
Yeah.
Like that was the easy one. I found the switch your bow out thing to be easier.
That's the one I did.
I thought. I mean, the timing. It
still only worked probably 60% of the time.
Yeah, but I felt like I could get in a rhythm on that.
Yeah.
And like listen to a podcast or something
right, and just
when
keep
I was
doing
making
it.
bombs or whatever. Whereas like. I couldn't do that with moving the inventory around and doing all. It was just a lot easier for me to learn the timing of the bow thing and just build myself like 100 new bombs and not worry about running around throwing bombs at things.
I regret not abusing it now. So, but maybe they'll find another glitch.
Like I would have gladly bought more bombs, but they're not for sale many places, and everybody sells like 5 of them. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I need more than that. And there's not enough bomb. Actually, my decision point on that was when I realized that the bomb flowers were only actually giving me 1 bomb.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh fuck that.
I think I did find a cave though, where if you exited the cave and went back in, at least one of the flowers would regenerate and grow another bomb.
Well, that's good.
But it would take you 2 minutes to run out to the cave and then run 2 minutes to run back in through the cave. It's like, wasn't worth it. You know?
Yeah. Well, and also like I argue it's a higher skill ceiling to do the duplication glitch than running out of a cave a bunch of times.
I like that. I'll take it. So anyway, if you haven't played Tears of the Kingdom yet and you're hoping to not have to worry about the economy in the game, it looks like, unfortunately, it's something you're going to have to consider.
Or don't update your game.
Right. But my Switch is always connected to the internet. My guess is it's already been updated, sitting there in sleep mode.
I'm sure there's a setting that says don't auto update, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah,
so probably. Yeah, they're all.
I bet you when I boot it up, it'll ask me maybe if I want to update it.
No, it's automatic. It always says
there
that.
you go. Too late for me. So anyway,
there's your physical media argument.
You're gonna have to earn You're gonna have to earn all your money in Zelda going forward. Another small story that really pissed me off this week is that the NVIDIA RTX 4060 Ti came out, and I had been eyeing this card up as a card that I was going to buy. I still have a 1080 from the PC that I built when I launched Sifted, and in a game we're going to talk about a little later, I discovered that card is getting really long in the tooth. So I'm ready to upgrade, and I had my eye on the 3060 Ti, but the 4060 is a new version of that, and so I was like, oh, well, that's coming soon. I won't buy the old 3060. It turns out the 4060 is awful. It's hardly an upgrade over the 3060 Ti, and it's only a 1080p card for $400. I can't believe, Matt, they're selling 1080p cards for $400 freaking dollars.
It's not great.
That's insane.
I mean, they're leaning on the whole, like, technically it can do 4K,
but if you run a 4K game, it's like 22 frames per second or whatever. Like, it's not a 4K card at all.
It's good enough for Zelda.
Right. Touche. So I'm really pissed off. Like, I don't know what NVIDIA is doing, man. Like, I guess they just hit 1 trillion or something, some absurd market cap today.
There's some crazy market cap.
For the first time ever in their history. So, look,
they're the only company of that nature. Like, they're like all the other $1 trillion cap markets are like, those are not video game hardware manufacturers. Right?
Well, the crazy part about it is that it did it after crypto came and went. You'd think that would have happened during crypto when people were buying GPUs.
Well, imagine that. When more people can buy your product, your market cap gets bigger. Instead of just dudes
that have built a garage full of crypto
funny how that
mining.
Works.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm pretty pissed off. I mean, it looks like...
The problem is it doesn't have enough RAM.
Yeah.
It's 8.
We
had this conversation. Like, don't buy an 8 gig VRAM GPU.
Yeah.
Like, 12 minimum.
Well, the 16 gig 4060 is coming, but it's like, at that point, should I just buy a better card? Like,
I mean, yes.
Probably.
But, like, the 16, I mean, you go ahead and wait and see what the 16 tests at. I'm sure it'll be much better.
It's like I'm going to have to spend
That's clearly the bottleneck here.
Yeah. It's like I'm going to have to spend basically $600 or $700 to buy a GPU. That's insane. Yep. Insane, Matt. Let's
not talk about what my GPU
I know.
cost. Like,
you don't count.
But it was a Christmas gift.
Right. I mean, it's just nuts that nobody should pay that much for a freaking GPU. It's crazy.
Like, I don't see... I mean, obviously, the performance is amazing.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Is it that much better than paying than what you get for $500 on a PS5?
No.
You
also have to have like a CPU and the RAM that actually maximize the card.
That's not even taking into account the environment you have to plug
it's like, look, I'm not just going to have to buy a card here. I'm going to buy the card. I'm going to have to buy a new CPU. Otherwise, why buy the card?
A whole new PC at that point.
Basically.
You need SSDs to run it properly.
I'll need a motherboard because the motherboard I have only has 2 USB 3 ports on it. It's all USB 2.0. Like,
although I will say having a motherboard that can do more than 100 megabits per second on the Ethernet connection, very lovely.
It is, yeah.
I didn't realize I had bought that. Like, that was 2015. I didn't need to worry about that much downloading yet. I was like, why would anyone need more than 100 megabits per second? That's crazy.
That's the Cinetike saying, do you really need NVIDIA? Why not AMD GPU? Don't you need to... Can you install an AMD GPU on, like, a system that hasn't been set up for AMD?
Yeah, they support
I thought you had to have a very specific motherboard. No?
Most motherboards support both.
I can just plug it into a PCI Express port and it's fine?
As far as I know.
Okay. Well, then that's something I will consider. Absolutely.
I mean,
I didn't think that was the case.
I prefer NVIDIA hardware for the most part, but they're all compatible that way.
Well, now Intel's also making GPUs as well.
Yeah, you can go fuck themselves.
Really? They're not? I thought they were good for the money.
They got pretty good reviews, but I don't trust them. You know, I wait for the third iteration of something before I jump in on things.
Makes sense.
I'm going to have to wait. I mean, maybe one day they'll be the choice, but like right now, NVIDIA is, you know...
Obi-Wan 9000 says the share price jumped 21% in one day, the biggest jump in NASDAQ history.
Yep.
How is that possible?
Nobody really knows what happened there.
See, right? Arigato-san says AMD CPU needs specific motherboard slot. GPU can go on anything. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you need the whole point of which motherboard you get is what CPU you're putting in it. But the graphics cards are all universal.
It's just PCI Express.
Yeah.
So anyway, my eternal conundrum of trying to rebuild my PC goes on. I really thought I was here. I'm like 4060 Ti.
Cinetike makes a good point. If your motherboard is NVIDIA tie-in, you probably have to use a device driver uninstaller to get the NVIDIA drivers off it. Because that can interfere with the AMD drivers.
That makes sense. Okay.
But you can put whatever you want GPU-wise on whatever motherboard, as long as it supports the equivalent, or usually they'll say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honestly not surprised that their stock jumped so much, because they're charging so much for these GPUs.
I mean, you're kind of stuck, aren't you?
Yeah. It's almost a monopoly. I hate to say it.
I mean, it isn't because they got two major competitors, but like the perception is that they are better, one way or the other. In part because they have been around so long, and in part because DLSS. I mean, AMD has an equivalent, but it's not as good. DLSS 3 in particular is very wanted right now, and it should be, because I've seen, I have it on my thing, and it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, on Cyberpunk, it makes almost an 80 frames per second difference if you got a monitor that can run that fast.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy at max, like everything. Like you can run 8K downsampled for everything on Cyberpunk at like 60. That's with amazing. That thing on.
Yeah. And
it's partly because they built it for that. Meanwhile, Jedi Survivor doesn't even support it because it's AMD tie-in.
Right.
But there is a user-made thing that can do it. I haven't tried that yet. But they updated it again a couple days ago, and I tried it again. It's still doesn't run very well. It runs better, but it doesn't run well.
So anyway, I'm bummed. I really thought I was about to upgrade my PC, and I'm not. So I'll wait patiently again to spend my money wisely instead of just doing a knee-jerk reaction purchase.
Also, NVIDIA is a cooler name. Than AMD.
I agree. So. I agree. Another smaller story from this week, and I didn't even realize that this was kind of bouncing around the internet, was that there was a rumor that PlayStation was going to buy CD Projekt Red. Did you even hear that rumor?
I heard it a couple places, but that's been flying around for a long time, and it's never from anywhere reputable.
Well, Sony shot it down, and now CD Projekt Red has shot it down as well, saying, no, that's not happening. We are not for sale. Although that would be a very wise purchase, I think.
If they were willing to sell, probably, but that's not. I mean, they don't need to. There's no reason to do that for CD Projekt Red. I mean, they're very well tied into the Polish government.
Well, it's also a publisher. It's not just a developer.
They are in no situation where they would need that kind of a bailout or any. I mean, I don't think anybody who owns the place is looking for a quick cash infusion. They make a lot of money already.
They do. Even after Cyberpunk, they made so much money off Cyberpunk, even though it was broken at launch. To
get a deal like that, you'd have to be concerned about the future of your company and kind of in a get out while the getting's good sort of thing. And I don't think that's how CD Projekt Red sees themselves.
I don't either.
Now.
Yep. So
and
that's
I don't think
not
they
happening.
should. Like they've got so much in the pipeline. More Cyberpunk, another Cyberpunk sequel in early pre-production. Another Witcher game coming, maybe 2 Witcher games with the remake of the first one.
Yeah.
Like, future's bright there. They got Idris Elba on their thing. Like, there's not like why would you sell?
To me, that's the kind of studio that Sony should be buying, though. Instead of these studios that do all these games as a service,
Like a successful one that has no reason to want to be bought. Yeah, it'd be nice to have them in house. But
or you make them an offer that they can't refuse.
Yeah, but this ain't Naughty Dog or Insomniac. It's not like you're dealing with much larger shareholders, much larger. I tell you. I didn't see it on Sifted because it was mostly promoted through Twitter and as a YouTube channel. But I sent you the link to that the documentary about Disco Elysium.
Yeah,
that if you haven't seen that, is by a YouTube channel called People Make Games, which is also run by a guy who makes a really good board game channel, and is married to Lee Alexander, of all things. But
what had happened to her? She just disappeared.
She's in England. She's still doing game stuff,
really,
consulting stuff.
I haven't heard hiding her hair from her in years.
I don't think she writes anymore. I think she does like consulting, like internal stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's a 2.5-hour documentary about all the weird shit that happened with Disco Elysium's development and the transfer of the rights and who owns the rights and who stole the rights and what happened with the parent company and who that was. And they went to Estonia and they interviewed everybody and they interviewed every single human being that was involved in this whole thing. They interviewed, and it is a ride.
Really? Never would have guessed that.
Spoilers. No one who made Disco Elysium came out of that looking good.
Oh, really?
The whole thing sounds like it was a gigantic mess. Although I do...
How did it turn out so good?
Because art imitates life. Yeah. Honestly, so much of the stuff in this documentary is like, dude, that's like the game. Like, it's so weird.
That's funny.
I do think it's very funny that a group of people that started as like a self-proclaimed group of anarcho-communists ended up being some of the most ruthless capitalist fraudsters, allegedly, that I have ever heard of. It's amazing. It's just funny. Amazing. It's an amazing watch. If
People Make Games, that's the YouTube
People
channel?
Make Games. And they do tons of great stuff anyway, but this is the best thing they've ever made.
When I get back from recording this, I'll make sure that I curate it to Sifted so you guys can check it out. Other small stories, actually one that just broke this morning, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is coming to PC on July 26th.
From out of nowhere, off the top rope.
Yeah, this was...
Can't wait to see what that looks like when it launches.
Yeah, I mean, this is a PS5 exclusive. This never ran on PlayStation 4. This was PS5 only.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason this can't run on modern cards with an SSD.
Yeah.
Like, I know they've made a big thing about it could only run on PS5.
I mean, what is going to happen if you don't have I mean, most people do have SSDs at this point.
I imagine it's going to require one.
But like my PC, I use my SSD just to run my OS, Windows. And then for games and everything, I have it just installed on an old mechanical drive.
Yeah, I mean, that's how my old one was.
Yeah,
my new one is all SSD. Because
like, I wonder...
They all expect it. Even if they don't require it, modern games expect it.
Yeah, really so I wonder if this will play on a rig like that.
No, I think it will. I think you could install it on your SSD.
Yeah, but my SSD is like 250 gigs.
I think it's going to require an SSD.
Yeah, which is interesting.
I mean, that's the future.
Yeah.
I mean, wait for it.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I keep my eye open for SSD drives. They drop, but not a ton, man. Like,
no, they're not cheap. I have... What do I have? I have I have 2 terabyte, which is like the C drive, which is where everything, the iOS and everything sits. And then I have 2 4 terabytes that I use for my other drives for like installing games and stuff. And that is, but on my old PC with the platter drives, the actual hard drives, I had those were like 13 terabytes each, and one of them broke. So that was one of the reasons I finally got a new PC. Was one of my drives broke, and I didn't want to go through all the trouble of. And I did pull it out after I got the new one and plug it directly into the new one. And as soon as it booted up, it just went. I'm like, oh no, you're dead. Like no hard drive makes that sound.
Oh, that's the worst, man. I hope you got everything off the drive before it died.
It was all installed replaceable.
Okay.
It wasn't like anything
like your photos or your music.
No, it's all on my other stuff. My PC is only games.
Okay.
So I had to replace a few ROM dumps I did of like old Wii games because I wanted to play them on Dolphin, but that's pretty easy because my Wii is already homebrewed anyway.
Oh, other small story this week: Nintendo kept Valve from allowing Dolphin on Steam.
Yeah, I saw that. Luckily, we already have.
Yeah, it's too late.
We're good.
It's too late, bruh. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sega, I don't know if you know this, but this, that Sega Sonic and Genesis collection that they have on Steam, it's been around, but it's been on Steam. It's got, it was years ago. Most of the Steam Workshop mods are just other Genesis games you can get and plug in, and you'll like multiple cartridges in the game, because you know how that menu works. It's like a shelf of like a visual shelf of all the library.
Yeah.
Basically every cartridge they have like, okay, it's like options, and it's like, oh, you want to play Alex Kidd, or you want to play like all these other games that you've installed from Steam Workshop, and Sega does not care.
Yeah.
Like they don't care that anyone's playing.
There's some battles that just aren't worth fighting.
No, they don't care that you can just download Crusaders of Senti on Steam Workshop. No one is making any money off that. I mean, I know Nintendo's
only
trying.
Nintendo thinks that it can.
But like it's
and
amazing.
it does, honestly, with its Nintendo Online.
Yeah, I mean, they found a way to leverage it, but it's like, it's so amazing that like most of the other companies are like, yeah, that's a 30-year-old game.
Yeah, we're not trying to milk
the number of people that are going to go on Steam and be like, I'm going to do today on Steam, I'm going to play X-Men,
right,
on the Genesis. It's like, no, like 3 people. Like,
if you charge somebody for that, they just won't pay.
Yeah,
they just won't play it.
Yeah,
they just don't care. It's crazy. So anyway, how do you feel about like a PS5 exclusive coming to PC that quickly?
I mean, it's not that quickly.
Yeah,
it's 3 years.
Has it been 3 years?
It came out in 2020.
Did it?
The launch game.
Yeah, okay. That's fine then. That's plenty of time. And also that development studio that PlayStation bought, we were like, why the hell? Nix's are the ones doing that port. So this is why PlayStation bought that development studio that everybody was like, why would you buy Nix's? Because they do stuff like this. And then finally, we already talked about the Diablo 4 reviews that came in today. Also, Street Fighter 6 reviews came in today. And holy mama! Like, its Metacritic right now is at 92!
Yep.
I was shocked by that.
Return to form.
I have played a lot of this. So we talked about it when we played the first beta, which had like the story mode and a couple other things in it. Well, then I got in on the beta again and went and played a ton of head-to-head. And it is great. Like, no denying, it's probably the best Street Fighter in maybe ever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the fighting game community think so.
And I get that. But still, like, that's not, I don't know. I don't find anything very innovative about it. They just kind of nailed everything. In the story mode, I don't think they nailed either. I think it's almost embarrassing, but...
The story mode is getting really good response.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I was expecting to hold it back.
Yeah.
It was very, but no, they're like, it's the perfect blend. Like, basically, like, the thing I saw that... Like,
I think some people be more tolerant of some of that stuff.
Well, no, the thing that I saw that rang true was, like, if you want Street Fighter to be serious and, like, brutal... There's stuff in here to do that for you. If you want Street Fighter to be like goofy and silly, there's stuff in here like that for you. Like, it's basically
I don't know how you can avoid the goofy. I don't know if that's possible.
I mean, it depends. I mean, a lot of the win poses have always been a little goofy. And
I'm just talking about like the story mode in general. It's just corny and weird.
Right, but that's what they're talking about. Is the story mode is for people who want that goofy, and if you don't want
you're
that,
saying if you don't want to just avoid the story mode altogether.
If that doesn't do it for you in Street Fighter, you've got the rest of the whole game.
Gotcha.
That's sort of what they're saying, is like there's something for everyone in there.
Yeah, it would be really hard for me to give not just Street Fighter, any fighting game over a 9. Like once my reviews get to like a 9 or higher, the game is going to have to do something that's just like off the charts, and they nail it. Like that's just the way I am.
I mean, it may be doing that.
Maybe. I mean, do you think that like
we're gonna have to see how it does in actual competition?
Yeah. I thought maybe the more innovative feature is the dumbing down of the game for noobs, being able to do like combos and crazy moves with just one button press.
Well, the claim is not dumbing down; that it's just like a different way to do it. I don't know if I agree with that, because I just don't understand it. But I couldn't do half the things I wanted to do when I was playing with modern controls by accident. Those couple times I picked it by accident.
Well, you're a really good Street Fighter player,
right? But I mean, I don't know how much of that is just the modern controls are inferior, or how much of that is just I've been playing the game a certain way for 30 years,
right,
and I'm not able to break out of that brain path. Like
it's muscle memory.
Might be just me, but I will. Like I said, I accidentally picked modern controls the first time I played a match, and I barely won in round 3. Like I literally like sliver of life left against the CPU. And then I switched to like regular Street Fighter controls and double hit. Perfect. I mean, those are two very different outcomes with the same opponent, because that was just Luke and when you could only pick Luke and Ryu. That was that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like honestly, and like a lot of the stuff I think with fighting games is like if you give people something to do. It's not like this. I mean, the story in Mortal Kombat is obviously better in terms of because they're being produced and written by the people that write the straight-to-DVD stuff for DC and Warner Brothers. A lot of the same people that wrote some of those good DC straight-to-video movies, that kind of thing. So obviously there's a level above that. but like it's like everybody just wants like a fighting game to have something for you to do that isn't just go online and fight people,
or just fighting a ladder of opponents.
Right. And if you deliver that in an even halfway competent manner, I think you are going to get a bit of a boost from it.
Because it's very rarely done.
Even Blaze Blue gets that. Blaze Blue's story modes are extremely robust. They are the most insipid anime garbage ever. Yeah. And I would honestly rather play Street Fighter World Tour because at least it's dumb but entertaining. Whereas Blaze Blue tends to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're using all these... I need a glossary for all the terms and names in this thing.
Yep.
But like the only thing I've seen that criticizing the World Tour mode beyond it's goofy is I guess there's some frame drops when you do random battles with randoms in the street. Like it doesn't quite catch up immediately. Yeah. That doesn't seem like a huge thing.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker.
I do like that it tells you whether someone's on wired or Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Can you avoid them then if you want?
Yeah.
That's
can filter, which Wi-Fi people are going to complain
Sorry,
about.
Wi-Fi people, I'm never going to fight you.
And look, like I use Wi-Fi on PlayStation 5 more than wired because I have that weird thing
where that weird drop
disconnects
thing.
all the time. And my wired connection.
People may avoid you.
They might. My wired connection's my Wi-Fi connection's very good. Like it's gotten better. I don't know what they did, but it's gotten way better.
Well, it'll probably still have the ping meter to show you like how good the connection is.
But there are people who just. I mean, again, I don't really care. I'm not going to play a ton online. I prefer playing fighting games offline because even online, even the best connection, you're still. There's a reason the community calls it playing underwater.
Yeah.
But a lot of the local community has dried up, or at least it's harder to get to because it's all out in Walnut, which is like an hour away. Where it used to be
too far.
Used to be by the airport, which is like 30 minutes at most. But everything got too expensive. You know, the proud bird would no longer host.
Yeah,
that was a good times. But that was Street Fighter 4. That's the other thing is I think people are just excited that this feels like Street Fighter 4 again in terms of like the excitement around the community, the accessibility of it, how early.
I do wonder if
the early tech feels satisfying, and you're not like because part of Street Fighter 5's problem was early on people were like, we don't really understand
why it's this way,
how these new mechanics play in, and how we're supposed to use them. But we're just going to play Street Fighter, and eventually they, everything got figured out, or what, but like, it never quite clicked the way the focus canceling immediately did in 4, the way the drive system immediately does in this.
Yeah,
like there's something about the new elements of the combat system in this that just immediately make it fun and more and interesting. And feel like you're making meaningful choices that just did not exist in Street Fighter V.
I do wonder how much the disappointment of Street Fighter V has bled into the high scores of Street Fighter 6.
I think there's a definite bounce back from like, oh my god, thank God it's good. Kind of.
Almost like a
think
sense of relief.
There's some of that there. I think for sure.
But we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about the game in depth, along with Diablo 4.
I'm there too. I'm just like, thank God.
Right.
There's a period where I'm like, am I even going to want to buy this game at launch?
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, we saw what happened last time, but no, I was happy to pre-order this game and be ready.
Yep.
Although I didn't think about my wired connection problem until after I ordered it on PS5.
Yeah. So anyway, sitting at a 92 Metacritic, that's pretty awesome. There's several reviews already curated and sifted right now. If you want to check it out after the show, go have at it. Let's check in with you guys, see what you guys are saying on this fine Tuesday afternoon. Vincent says there's both the more accessible controls and the ones that dumb it down so you can button mash offline.
Yeah, one-button controls are a separate thing. Modern controls are different. I did find it very amusing that some weirdo complaining about gay characters in Street Fighter who have been in Street Fighter since 1991.
I told you that one character
was complaining about the woke controls. And I'm like, what? Is the fucking joystick ask for your pronouns before you play a match? No, they're just accessible, dipshit. Come on.
Sneaky says, Matt is right. I find fights just boring, but trick me with the story and I'm in. LOL. Yeah.
It's definitely trying to trick you.
Yeah.
Vortex Complex is right, though. It does kind of have a Yakuza goofy. It's like if the whole Yakuza game was all the tone of the goofiest side quests.
Vincent reminds us that Ratchet was actually mid-2021. So about a year and a half.
2 years.
Well, 2 years, yeah. So we are mid-23.
That's not that quick.
Yeah, that's fine. That's still fine. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Sneaky asked, did you see someone remade the whole of Sonic 06? And Sega said, yeah, go ahead and release it, but don't make any money. What?
It's not like Sega finished it, so why not?
I mean, did they make it playable this time or not as embarrassing? Is the kissing scene still in there?
I'm sure the kissing scene. I mean, look, the main problem with that was just that it didn't work right. I mean, it had minute-long load times between text lines. Like, it was unbelievable.
Commander Fett says that it'll be like Returnal. You need a huge amount of RAM. He's saying maybe to get over if you don't have an SSD to play Ratchet and Clank Rift
Apart. It
just
stores everything
if you
in
just
DRAM. Yeah,
brute force it with a bunch of RAM, it might work still. Which I also don't have a ton of RAM either. So, I mean, I have a ton, but it's crappy RAM, basically. I need to upgrade it. Kevin Roffer reminds us that CD Projekt also announced that Witcher 3 has sold 50 million copies. I mean, that puts it up there in what, like the top 5 games sold ever of all time?
Yep.
That's a big deal. Yep. Erebus Jones, do you have a monitor that's bigger than 1080p? I do not have a PC monitor. I obviously have a 4K TV, but I do not have a 4K monitor, unfortunately. And I need to fix that as well. I would have to buy a 4K monitor. Cinetike says investors are going hype crazy over data center earnings and future AI perspectives. So what NVIDIA is doing, basically what Amazon is doing with AWS.
Yeah.
And just setting up big server farms for other companies
and for AI hosting and for all that. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that'll collapse soon enough, but.
Yeah, you would think that it's saturated. Plus, it's like Amazon. It's so cheap. I don't know why you would go anywhere else.
The AI chat cheap. I mean, everyone's going. I mean, that is just the next grift. I mean, and the true believers will freak out about that. But it's like, no, there's a reason all the NFT people move straight to this
the AI
immediately after the NFT thing collapsed because it's the next.
I see people still trying to hype NFTs.
Here's the thing. The AI thing is bullshit because the AI things are algorithms designed to trick you because we work on confirmation bias as human beings. Then the biggest thing, look into that thing, one of the big things like, oh my God, an AI beat a human being at Go. You know, the game of Go is supposed to be the most complicated, it's an ancient thing, like it's the most human thing to be able to strategize, but a human being can't do it. But eventually someone who wasn't very good at Go thought of something, figured it out, said, let me play that AI, and beat it 9 times out of 10. Why did it do that? Why did that happen? Because
you can predict what it's going to do.
No. Because the person's strategy was to basically do a very simple twist to like what a professional wouldn't do, but basically do the simplest possible method of doing what you need to do in Go, which is to surround areas and capture them. And the AI couldn't adjust to it because the AI was programmed to play against professional Go players, expert Go players. And it couldn't adjust to this dumbass beginner strategy because the AI doesn't know how Go works.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing as saying, like, you know what the AI is going to do, which is what I said.
But that's not it. The reason it's a thing to say, like, this AI stuff is bullshit is because...
But you knew it was going to play for a professional player.
Right, but that's not the
manipulate
point.
it.
No, that's not the point.
Okay.
The point is it's a comment about why the AI isn't intelligent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with that 1,000%. It can only do what it's programmed to do.
It's not thinking laterally. It's not out-thinking a human. Yeah. It's just better at you can program everything ever known about Go into this thing, and it can remember it the way a human can't, but it doesn't know what Go is. It can't be like, oh, he's doing this different thing, and the point of the game of Go is to do this, so I will do this instead.
It can't reason.
No.
It's a machine. It's programmed.
It's also why when you program in, hey, make me a picture of Nikola Tesla driving a car, and it pumps out this thing of Nikola Tesla in a single-seat car going sideways down the road on the 10 with a car coming straight at him, and he looks exactly like David Bowie because David Bowie played him in The Prestige. Like, I'm not worried about it just yet.
The other thing, too, is it just gets so much stuff wrong.
Oh,
you can't rely on AI to just do stuff. Like, you can't even rely on it to write because it will give improper facts into its
My favorite
copy.
is the people that are, like, posting, like, oh, my student got caught using AI to write their essay, and the reason is because in the middle of the essay it says, I don't have an opinion on this because I'm just a chatbot.
Like, they didn't even copy edit it.
They didn't even read it before they turned it in. Yeah, it's like...
They just thought, oh, it's the AI, it can do it for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not still a lot easier, and in the end probably more time efficient to just tell a human being what you want and have them do it for you.
I think a big part of why people perceive AI to be real and intelligent is that it has a perfect memory. If you tell it something, it never forgets it. Humans forget it. Humans prioritize information. Certain parts of your brain, if you take information, you put it into the catalog. Sometimes you can pull it up, sometimes you can't. AI is always going to remember it. And so I think it fools people into believing. The thing is like, I think a lot of people think that if you do well in school, you're very smart. That is not the case. Like, that just means that you can memorize stuff. Like, being able to memorize things and being able to think critically and reason are two entirely different things.
And that second one's a lot harder for a machine.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. Like, I don't know how they ever get a machine to that point. So
it would have to happen spontaneously, basically, which is, by the way, when shit gets real.
Yeah. exactly.
That's when Skynet happens.
Could they figure out how to build their own robots? Maybe.
Well, as someone said, the biggest problem is not the biggest concern would not be an AI that suddenly realizes and proves to its users that it is sentient. The biggest concern would be an AI that becomes sentient and realizes it's in its best interest to not let us know that.
Right, and hide it. So anyway, there you go. There's all the housekeeping for GameFace 344. Quite a lot of it, and we're about ready to get into the show. But before we do that, here's a word from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com. That's creamls.com. Luna, the star of the show today, according to our chat. She's hanging out with us longer than usual. I don't know why. Usually by now she's already bailed. She's like, I got my camera time. I'm out of here. A big thanks to LS Cream for sponsoring GameFace. It makes a huge difference for us. So please, if you can, go to creamls.com and check out the website there. There's a store locator so you can figure out where to buy it locally. And there's also links where you can buy it from Bevmo and other online retailers. There's recipes there so you can make the awesome drinks that you see in the ad. It's really worth the trip over there. And again, if you can, support our sponsors because that means that they come back if they're doing well and we continue to get the sponsorship. So we'd appreciate it very much. And again, thanks as always to LS Cream for sponsoring GameFace. And with that, it's time to kick off 344 proper. We're going to kick things off with, I played 3 games this week and a 4th game last week that's in this week's show. And of all those games, the game that I enjoyed the most is a game I never would have guessed, Matt, and it is Warhammer 40K Boltgun. It is, why do people call old Doom, Castle Wolfenstein type shooters boomer shooters?
I think it's a combination between how it's just explosions everywhere and that it's played by old people and old people are.
Is that why?
Boomers. It's a mix of those.
I mean, it does make sense because boomers who were been like hardcore gamers in the 90s, they're now in their 60s and 70s, the boomers. So that makes sense. You can see our lower third there. Okay, boomer. I'm proud of that one. But this is a Doom-like first-person shooter. When I say Doom, not like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, although there are shades of those games in this a little bit. I mean going back to the old-school Doom, where you're playing in 3D environments and you are fighting against 2D sprites. The enemies are 2D, and this game plays on that. So one thing that's interesting about the art style, and I'll just get the B-roll going here so you guys can actually just see it for yourselves. It's the rotation of items in the world. So when I first started playing this game, like I killed an enemy and there was a pile of jibs sitting there, and I ran up to the pile of jibs and started strafing around it, and the pile of jibs always reoriented so that you're always seeing it. Like,
rather, it never reorients.
What?
It never reorients.
What do you mean?
Because they're 2D sprites, so they're just always facing
They always face you, right.
Yeah.
And it's weird and off-putting at first, and the enemies do it too. Everything.
Yeah, the corpses all do. I mean, that's how Doom was able to work.
Yeah, I do wonder.
You weren't actually running any 3D.
Right.
Doom was not 3D.
Wait, the world isn't 3D either?
It's not.
I mean, it is in this, but
in this it is. But I don't know exactly how to explain it properly because it's very. But there are like videos and stuff you can look up where it explains. It wasn't rendering anything in 3D. It was like. It's all about crossing vertices and planes and putting like. It's very weird. It's like when you look up like a video, YouTube, like basically go to YouTube and put in like how does Doom work. Okay. And they'll explain how like the Doom engine drew things and made things happen, and it's not like 3D rendering. It is like this weird algorithm trick that like probably only John Carmack fully understood at the time. Like it's ridiculously weird. Yeah. And it's why a bunch of quirks in the game work the way they do that we associate with Doom in a very but it's fascinating.
Okay. Interesting.
Because there was no 3D hardware acceleration, so there was no way to do that. But there was a way to trick PCs into displaying 3D graphics without doing 3D graphics.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Weird as hell.
Yeah. Well, this game, the levels in the world are built out of polygons, and they kind of fake whatever Doom was doing back in the 90s. And then, as you can see, the enemies, all the effects are all 2D sprites and lots of pixels and all that kind of stuff. And I will say that, you know, the particle effects in this, you couldn't do this game back in 1990 is what I'm getting at. Like, there are things in this game that give it sort of a more modern flair, but at the same time, like, it is a little off-putting at times. Like, you'll see like a pile of gyms sitting there, and it's like spinning on an axis so that it's always facing the right direction. It's a unique way to make a game.
Yeah, well, that's because, you know, you're always, even in when they did do 3D stuff, like you know, Marathon did more true 3D. And like you're just spinning the world around the player. The player's not going anywhere. So all the 2D stuff is just continually facing. I remember the first time I realized that was like playing Marathon, and I realized a bunch of the corpses were staying there the whole time. I'm like, hey, like, for some reason that really annoyed me when I noticed that, and I think it took me like months to notice that for the first time because I was so busy just running around doing like blowing stuff up.
Well, you can see I was in that room and it was tripping me out, so I kept like looking at this stuff on the ground and watch it rotate or whatever. It takes a second to kind of get over it, but once you do and you just kind of give it up and just kind of dive into the world.
Very authentic.
Yeah. So the plot in this is very flimsy. There's not a lot of storytelling. There aren't many cutscenes, but it is set directly after the events of Warhammer 40K Space Marine. Obviously, Space Marine 2 is coming later this year, so good timing for that. And you are basically playing as an Ultramarine charged with cleaning up the mess after Space Marine. So you go back to the places Space Marine took place, and the areas have been repopulated with the enemies, and you need to wipe them out all over again.
And gotten much boxier for some reason.
What has gotten boxier?
The world.
Oh, well, yeah. Because you're seeing it through this perspective or whatever. And right there, you just got the bolt gun, Matt. And I just have to say that the bolt gun in this game is one of the best weapons I have used in a first-person shooter in the last, 8 years. The shooting in this game is sublime. Whoever programmed the gameplay in this, if you are a big budget AAA developer, go get that guy right now. Because I can't tell you how many times, Matt, I have played big budget first person shooters where the shooting felt like crap. And it feels amazing in this game. It feels so good, it carries the whole game. You end up getting 8 or 9 different weapons throughout the course of the game, and some of them are insane and crazy awesome. The bolt gun, it carried me through the whole game. It feels so good to use. It's so effective once you learn how to use it. And eventually, you get a heavy version of the bolt gun, and they give you plenty of ammo for it, and it just annihilates. I hardly ever ended up using the special weapons in the game. Sometimes on bosses I would, because this game does have a little bit of that Doom Eternal element of it. I don't know if you remember, because it's been a while since we played it, but very specific weapons worked very well against specific enemies. Yeah. So you're constantly swapping out. I think they try to do that in this, and there are certainly some weapons that you use them on an enemy, you're like, holy crap, I just wiped them out, and you're surprised by it. But you can play through the whole game just using the bolt gun in this.
Well, you don't name the game after it if it's not effective.
I mean, they should have named the game after it. It feels that good to play this. And
it's called bolt gun.
It is, yeah.
So but this, that's the trademark weapon of a Space Marine. So
yeah. But they finally made it feel so amazing. I don't know if they're going to have it in Space Marine 2.
I'm sure they'll have it. I don't know if it'll feel as good because it's not very different.
That's what I was getting at. I don't know if they'll make it feel like it does in this game. Again, whoever handled the gameplay for this, if you're in HR, you're working in talent for games development, go poach that guy right now. Whoever it was is really good at what he does. So this game is powered by the same finite state machine AI that bolster the behaviors of the Grunts and Valve's Half-Life. It was another 90s shooter. And how it works is the various enemies, they have a range of behavioral states that they can transition to and from. For example, in one situation, an enemy Chaos Marine might enter a state of awareness if it can't locate the player, only to immediately switch into an overkill state if they sense that the player is in the vicinity and is low on health. It makes the game feel dynamic. So there's some enemies in this game where you shoot them or kill them, and then they transform into 2 other enemies that come after you. And a lot of it is learning the nuance of that. Some of the areas in the game, they wait for you to kill like the mini boss or the boss before they'll stop spawning enemies. So you may be inclined to go to the fringe of the arena and just mop up the little rank and file guys. What you don't realize is that they're going to spawn into infinity and until you take out some of the bigger enemies in that particular arena. So there's definitely some strategy imparted into the gameplay as part of the finite state machine, but also just the way that they handle the enemies and the way the enemies work in the game. Some of the other enemies, like you already saw the chainsword. Now, I'll admit, I hardly use the chainsword again after the beginning of the game. Like, once I got a gun, I use the gun for the most part. And the other thing, too, is that it may give you... You may think, oh, this is like Doom. Because remember, also, the other thing about Doom was, if you took out enemies with a gun, you would get one resource after you killed the enemy. If you take them out with a chainsaw, it would give you another resource. So, if you needed health, you would use the item that gave you health. If you needed the other item, you would use the weapon. That does not happen in this. Like, it doesn't matter how you kill the enemies always drop the same thing. And really, the chain sword is just there for fun, and because it's a big part of Warhammer 40K as well, obviously. But I hardly ever ended up using it. It's pretty OP. You probably could play through most of the game with the chain sword once you got good with it, but the guns felt so good that I just kind of abandoned it pretty quickly and just switched to guns and used the guns pretty much the whole way through. The first couple you're seeing right now, this is the beginning of the game. And you may be sitting there going, man, this looks easy. It is. The first, 3 or 4 sections of the game are really easy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So when I first started playing it, I bumped it up from the default setting a notch, because the default setting they put it on was easy. And I'm like, I usually play the default, but I'm not going to play easy. I'm going to play it on medium. So I started playing it, and I'm like, oh my God, you can see they just stand there. And I'm just like wiping them out. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to bump up the difficulty in this to even higher than medium. Then I got to the 4th stage, and oh my God, no. Play it on medium, people. Again, the first few stages will seem really easy. That does not last very long. This game is hard. There is a lot of stages, because a lot of the game is corridor shooting, and then they'll shove you into an arena. And they're like, okay, you need to kill everything in this arena before we unlock the doors and you can go forward. Some of those arena battles, man, I would have to try them 5 or 6 times before I could get through them. And a lot of times, it was just luck that I ended up getting through them. I just shot the one exploding barrel at the right time that took out 15 enemies at once. When I would get through it, it wasn't like I finally nailed something. Something advantageous would finally happen that I would get through it. So this game has some teeth. It is not easy. And there are 3 more difficult settings that you can choose for this game. And I do realize a lot of people play these shooters for that. They want to play it on the higher difficulty settings. I'm just telling you, for me personally, the medium was more than enough. I was like, I'm good, man. This is as tough as I want it to be. Because here's the thing, even the rank and file enemies, some of them will have rocket launchers. And if they hit you with a rocket launcher, even though you can take them down with one shot, they'll take half your health with that one shot. And there's literally 50 of them in the room at a time. So it is very frantic, lots of circle strafing, lots of crowd management, lots of trying to get away. And this is one thing I will say about this, is because it doesn't have the Doom Eternal kind of reflexive health where you're like, okay, I know if I kill an enemy with the chainsaw, it will give me health. Because it doesn't have that, a lot of times in this game, you're trying to run away and get away from enemies and find where there are health pickups in the map.
Yep.
And it does...
Classic shooter.
Yeah, it does slow down the pace of the game at times and kind of takes away from the overall aesthetic of what they're trying to achieve in the game. It's one of those things where
There's a reason only the first Call of Duty did that.
Yeah. It's it's okay to copy Doom. No one's going to begrudge you if you copy the industry standard for this type of shooter. If they had done that, okay, you use a chainsaw, you get health back, it's smart. There's no shame in copying other concepts.
But they're not trying to do that. They're trying to do...
Exact 90s.
90s. Something that could have been in the 90s, but with some modern tech on it.
Yeah. And so they don't do that. And so there is downtime in this game where you're you just try to find a quiet corner and go...
There are people who hate regenerating health and stuff like that desperately they want to play games that you have to find the health pack. You have to manage your health like that. You got to save scum sometimes. There's people that want that miss that. I am not one of them, but
it didn't bother me that much. It does. So some of the enemies are bullet sponges. Some of them, one shot they die. But the mid-level enemies in this, man, you unload 3 full clips in them before they die. And that's if you're shooting them in the head. So again, it's not an easy game. There are times where you're like, man, I really need health. And so you get the health, and those little small health pickups are literally just 1 health. You're like, oh, here's a whole half of the room full of health, and it's ultimately 30 health. you need to find those big, like, white, like, health attaché cases, and they're very stingy with putting those in the levels. And when you find them, you don't use them until you need them. You're like, oh, I gotta wait until I'm down to like 5 or 10 health, and then I'll come back here and I'll get it. So there's a little bit of strategy involved in that stuff. I realize that most games have moved on from that for a reason, because people got sick of it. A map would be nice. So there's no map in this game. There's this little, like, almost mag-like robot that follows you around. You can't see it now. I don't know where he disappeared. And that's the thing. Like, he disappears. You're like, where the hell did he go?
He cloaks when there's combat happening. He didn't want to get shot.
I guess so.
That's a standard thing in the Warhammer. Like
there he is. There he was. He just flew by.
Space Marine groups have like this. They have these little AI assistant robot things that cloak during, sort of like Jack in Gears of War.
Yeah. So sometimes it will show you the way to go, but you have to like sit still and let it fly away. And then as it flies away from you, then you start chasing it, then it will show you the path to go. It would just be nice to just have a map. Because this is one of those games where ultimately after you've played it for like 4 or 5 hours, it does all kind of start to look the same after a while.
Although those maps back in the day didn't help much either.
Yeah, these levels are pretty straightforward. The whole game is pretty much linear. There's not a lot of spaghetti as far as stuff like overlapping on top of each other. So when you finish each level, they do count like how many secrets that you found or whatever. And there are like hidden walls you can blast through to find the secrets. Some of the secrets are like crazy power-ups that make all the enemies go in slow motion. So they're worth finding. And you do get a grade after you finish each section of the game. But generally, I would just rather have a map. It wouldn't be that complicated in this game, and it would help you. Like, there's a lot of times where I finish a skirmish, and I'm like, where the hell am I supposed to go? Because the other thing that it does, that those old shooters did, is you're constantly finding color-coded keys. You need the red key to open the red door. You need the purple key to open the purple door. And so you have to, like, a lot of times you'll have killed all the enemies in a mission, and you're just running around trying to find the hidden corridor that has the key, or you're trying to find some hidden health because you're down to like 5 or 10 health left or whatever. So there is a little bit of downtime that I think they could have found easy ways to remedy. But overall, as you're seeing in the B-roll, it pretty much is just combat, like wall to wall from the time you start playing until the time you decide that you're exhausted and you need to take a break. This is one of those games that'll wear you out playing it, by the way. Like, there's moments where I'm like, I want to keep playing, but I'm like, I need to take a break. I just need to, like, put it down for a little bit. The game is separated into 3 different chapters, and the weird part about this is, I don't remember this from 90s shooters, after you finish a chapter, it's like Metroid, and you lose all your guns, and you have to start all over again.
Oh, there were a couple that did that. That wasn't common, though.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. It's annoying. It's like you build up this awesome arsenal, even though, granted, I used the bolt gun for the most part through most of the game. I did use those higher powered weapons for some of the tougher enemies, and you have to start all over again. Now, it doesn't take quite as long in the second and third chapter to get those weapons back and start accessing them again, as long as it took the first time, but still, it's a little weird for it to do it 2 times in the middle of a game. Another complaint I have about it, there's just not enough enemy types. Again, you're watching this B-roll. I think there's literally like
also
8...
a problem in the actual Space Marine game.
Right, yeah. And that just might be a 40K license thing. Maybe there just aren't enough different enemy types in the license.
I think they're just hard to do. Like, you know, I think the orcs and the Chaos Space Marines are just the easiest enemies to put in a shooter for the most part. Like, because like, the Tyranids and the Necrons are big too, but they are swarm, like, you know, mass swarm Starship Troopers, alien style things, and I think that, you know, that takes more processing power. And it's one of the reasons the Tyranids were not in the first couple Dawn of War games.
Well, some of the enemies in this don't work very well either. Like,
I assume you're fighting Chaos right now. I assume there's orcs later.
They never mix together.
Yeah,
it's always one or the other.
Yeah,
it's weird. I don't know. Is that some kind of thing with the license or something?
No. I mean, part of it my guess is that either there's an issue with loading in that many sprites in one map,
even on PlayStation 5,
maybe, or whatever engine they're using. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or one of the things that might be license related is if a Chaos Space Marine and an Orc run into each other, they're going to fight each other, and they may not have wanted to take the time to give AI enough that the AI could fight itself. You know
now you're seeing some of what I was talking about, where you've wiped out all the enemies and you're just wandering around. You
gotta figure out where to go.
Like, where do I go now? Yeah, this happens a good bit in this game.
I remember that.
And a map would eliminate it. Like, I don't understand why they didn't just put a map in the game. It's really weird. So there's not enough enemies. That's a big problem. And then some of the enemies, like, they almost glitch. Like, there's these weird blue flying enemies, and they don't work with sprites. Like, they just look like these blue mess, like, textures that just come at you really fast, and they fly, and some of the enemies get caught on the geometry. Their AI isn't very smart. It's pretty easy to outsmart them. It's really more about the quantity of the enemies that makes the game challenging, not the intelligence or the movement of the enemies that make it challenging. It's just more about the fact there's like 50 of them in this little room. Kill them without getting killed.
If you Google that, one of the first autocompletes is "Why is there no map?"
Oh, really? Well, there you go. You don't technically have armor in this game. Instead, you collect this thing called Contempt, but it basically works exactly the same as armor.
Well, yeah, just that you're so angry at the heresy that you can't be hurt because you're so... I mean, it's literally what it is.
I know.
Warhammer is goofy as hell.
Yeah. As far as traversal is concerned, there's hardly any. You have a jump that's really floaty, and you can jump really high. There's a mantle that doesn't work very well. That's probably my biggest complaint with the gameplay, is the mantling is awkward and unreliable, which in a game like this where you're constantly getting inundated with enemies, you don't really have time to worry if you're going to grab onto that ledge or not, or just fall back down to the ground. And then there's a boost. Like, you can do like a sprint or whatever. And you can also go into the menus and turn on Eternal Sprint if you want to. So you don't have to toggle it on and off. You can just set it up so that it's always working that way. As I said, some of the graphics don't work especially well with the sprites and the pixelization, although generally they do. It's charming, I guess is the best way to put it. If you're a Warhammer 40K person who's really into this IP, I'm sure seeing some of these enemies in this crazy 2D sprite art style is cool.
Or we'll just remind you of the old Space Hulk game.
Right, yeah. Actually, you're right. I forgot about that game. But for me, someone who's not a big Warhammer 40K guy, I just thought some of them looked pretty rough. But bottom line,
I can tell what they are.
Yeah.
I'm familiar enough with 40K to know what I'm looking at, but it's a choice.
But bottom line, this game is really fun. And it totally sucked me in. And again, I was playing 3 different games this week. This is the one I kept going back to. This is the one that I finished, by the way. It ends up, it's about, I don't know, probably like 8-9 hours long. I think it was when it was all said and done, something like that. And I will say this, about halfway through the game, it runs out of enemies, it runs out of weapons, it runs out of new. And so the last half of the game is just difficult, but they're not really throwing much new at you, and that's another kind of ding on the game. But this game is $22. I know that's a weird price point. Right now it's on sale on Steam for like 10% off, which puts it basically right at $20. It's worth $20. Like, we talk about indie games all the time. We're always like, oh, it's $35, that's too much, or, $15 is right around the sweet spot. They have priced this game perfectly. I would recommend this to anyone who likes shooters in general, but if you're a fan of those old 90s shooters, this is a no-brainer. At $20, again, I got 8-9 hours of gameplay out of it, and I pretty much loved every minute of it. It's worth every penny to me. I say this is a buy. There's no multiplayer, just putting that out there right now. But again, there are multiple difficulty settings, and again, generally, most people try to play these games on the hardest difficulty setting that they can handle. And I did too, and medium was it for me. So, but again, Warhammer 40K Boltgun is available for pretty much everything. It's around $20. I think it's worth every penny. This is one of those little hidden jewels that I'll be considering for like Indie Game of the Year here in 5 or 6 months. I had a lot of fun playing it. I think anybody who enjoys shooters is going to have a lot of fun playing it as well. I don't know if everyone's going to finish it because it does get a little monotonous.
I always had trouble finishing these old shooters back because there's a certain point where you've just seen it all.
I've done it.
It's like, okay, another weird map with spaghetti everywhere.
I trudged through.
Although the worst about that was Unreal.
Yeah.
That first Unreal game is 3 times longer than it should be.
I'll put it to you this way. First 5 hours of this, I played straight. Just straight through the game. And then I'd play until I'd die.
Right.
And then I'd die, and I put it aside, and I go back to one of the other games that we're about to discuss. And that's how I ended up finishing it. And to be fair, those other games that I was playing, it was very easy for me to go back to Boltgun and continue playing that instead of trudging forward in the other games that I was dying in. So I think this game is great. I think they nail it. I think they nail the 40K stuff. I think they nail the 90 shooter stuff. And I think there's enough of modern elements sprinkled in there that if you're not a fan of those old shooters, you'll still enjoy playing it. And again, most importantly, the shooting feels amazing. Like, I didn't even sense, Matt, any like auto aim or like assist in this. Like, it just felt like I was just aiming it, and it was just butter. Like, everything just felt exactly how it's supposed to.
I thought I saw a lot of auto aim in that. But
really? You saw it, like, adjusting for it?
Yeah.
I didn't feel it playing it at all.
That might just mean it's a really good auto aim.
Maybe. Or maybe I just wasn't noticing it while I was playing. But again, Warhammer 40K Boltgun, a little indie 90s style shooter that I think you guys will get a lot of enjoyment out of, a surprising amount of enjoyment of, and that's one thumb up from GameFace for that. Let's see what you guys are saying about it. I see someone talking about boomer. Shane's not a boomer, not a generational one. Yeah, I'm not old enough to be a boomer, which is unfortunate because if I was a boomer, I'd be dirty rich. Because pretty much all of them are.
I don't know about that.
Well, a lot of them are. They cut their taxes for themselves for the last 40 years, so they never had to pay any taxes. And so they got to keep all their money. And now no one else can break into the middle class because of it. El Guapo, this game is giving me Doom vibes. You like this more than Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal? Good question. No. And the reason I don't like it as much is because it does not have that seesaw mechanic in it. It also, Doom...
it's a throwback. It's a different thing.
Doom Eternal, like, if you watch good people play that, it's like watching some other game. Like, if the way you can traverse and fly and jump in that, like, I just played it like a normal shoot. Other people can just fly all over the place in that game. Like, there's nothing like that here, where you can be so good at it that it almost plays like an entirely different game. And I know nothing about Warhammer 40K, by the way. Like, I have no affinity for it, so that really played very little into my evaluation of this game. I really just played it for the shooter itself. Is this based on the little figures in model shops? Yeah, the tabletop board game. Yeah. Yep. How long is the game? I already answered that. 8 or 9 hours. Yes, this footage is PS5, if anyone's asking. It was PlayStation 5, and it always ran like a banshee. Now, our show is 30 frames per second. You're not going to be able to see that watching GameFace, but it ran like a beast. Like, it never buckled. Yeah, I think that's it. Yes, I captured this gameplay. If people are asking who captured this, this is my gameplay. This was me playing. Almost all the B-roll is me playing, and if it isn't me playing, I'll put a note in our footage saying that it's somebody else. And... in a game that we cover here in a little bit, we did use someone else's footage because my PC sucks. And the game that I was capturing, I was not doing justice to the game. It was making the game look worse than it actually was. But I credit the footage when we use it. So this was all my footage, though. Anyway, there you go. That is Warhammer 40K Boltgun. I say go buy it. It's like $20. I think it's worth every penny. Next up, we're going to talk about a game that we teased on, well, actually not last week, on last Thursday's show, Alone in the Dark, because I said on that episode that day they were doing a big blowout. Gotta adjust my seat here a little bit. They were doing a big blowout of the game that day, and in fact they did, and not only did they blow the game out, they put up a demo of the game that you can go and play. Now, it is really short. The demos literally took me 9 minutes to finish. I think it's the shortest playable demo that's been out in recent memory. The other thing I would say, too, is that it ultimately didn't represent the game that well. So I played the demo first, and this is not it. Let me see if I can get to the right one here. Here we go. So I played the demo first. I was like, what better than to play the game to get an idea of what the game is? And I played it, and I was like, this is like a point-and-click adventure game that you could run around in. And I was like, this doesn't seem that exciting to me. Because really, that's all this demo is. You play as this little girl who is in this house with her uncle, and her uncle's going crazy. He's literally going insane. He's been writing out this letter. He's been trying to send this letter. He can't send it out. And you can't figure out why he's acting crazy. Well, as it turns out, as a little girl, it becomes your job to get the letter sent out. And then ultimately, the uncle, this is like the prologue, I guess. As it turns out, the uncle goes upstairs into the attic and hangs himself. And that's what the whole plot of this game is about. You jump forward in time, and you're playing as the niece of the uncle. And not the same as this girl, by the way, which is weird. It should have been, but it's not. You're playing as the niece and a private investigator trying to figure out why the uncle hung himself. You're there afterwards or whatever. And the star of this game is the one dude from Stranger Things. What's his name? David Harbour. He plays the role of Detective Edward Carnby. He's a hard-boiled, scenery-chewing gumshoe It's a perfect cast. And he actually just kind of plays the same character that he played in Stranger Things, where he's a cop versus just a private investigator. And then you also play as the niece, Emily Hartwood, and that role is played by actress Jodie Comer, who is in Killing Eve, which I've never watched.
Killing Eve is good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say is the game kind of gives off a vibe like the movie franchise The Conjuring, which I love generally. Like, they're getting they're starting to squirt those out a little too quickly at this point. Like, the first couple Conjurings I thought were really good, and then the last one I was like, okay, this franchise is starting to jump the shark a little bit. But if you're not familiar with it, The Conjuring is a movie franchise where this husband and wife team investigate paranormal activity, basically, usually demons or whatever. And this has a similar vibe. It's that they're a couple, although she's hired him as the private detective, but they're both working on the case together. And the way the game works is you can play the game as either or. You choose. Now, you don't jump back and forth at will. You choose when you start playing the game, and you play as that character the whole way through. And the developers have said that the game does change, and the story is altered a little bit depending on which character you choose to play as, which means that, ideally, to get everything out of the game, you would have to play the game multiple times. I'm not a person that does that unless there are drastic changes between the two characters, but I know there are a lot of people that actually do, and they're into that. So as I said, it stars as two characters. You're basically investigating the mystery around the Hartwood curse, which they don't really give up a whole lot about. And this prologue demo explores the backstory, showing the uncle how he's deeply concerned, and then the young girl trying to figure out why, and then she tries to post a letter for him. Ultimately, he hangs himself in the attic. And the whole Hartwood curse is centered around voodoo because this game takes place in Louisiana, in the bayou outside of New Orleans or whatever. And of course, Matt, if anything is ever set in New Orleans, it has to center around voodoo. Mm-hmm. That's the way it is. That's just a culture.
Or a giant monster coming to destroy the town.
Yeah, one or the other.
Which is infamous too.
Yep. As I said, both characters are playable, and you get a different perspective on the story depending on which one you play. So as I played this demo, you can see, I'm going to skip through this really quickly. It's literally just her wandering around. Oh, I have the letter now. Where's the post box that I take the letter to deliver it to? Oh, and there's no action in this at all. And so I finished this demo, and I'm like, this is just a boring point and click. This isn't a survival horror game at all. But as it turns out, there is combat in the game. And there's both melee combat and projectile combat. You get an arsenal of guns. The melee combat even has like an evade mechanic in it. So kind of like a parry or whatever. So ultimately the game does have combat. It is a survival horror game when it's all said and done. It's just that demo that you guys may choose to go play yourselves as well doesn't really sell it as that. It sells it like it's a point and click without the pointing and the clicking. Now, there are the detective work. They said that a lot of the detective stuff that you do in this is where the puzzles come in. They also said that you can, in the menus, you can set it up so that it just plays out the story. And the puzzles solve themselves, or you can set the level of hints that the game gives you. So the accessibility in this looks like it's going to be good as far as, do I just want to learn the story and play through the plot and watch that? Do I want to have a lot of action in the game? Do I want to eliminate the action? Do I want to have to solve the puzzles? Do I want the game to solve the puzzles for me? So when I played the demo, I was like, this isn't Alone in the Dark. But then as I went back and watched the developer doc that the developers put out about it, I was like, oh, okay, it is. And in fact, as it turns out, this is really just a remake of the first Alone in the Dark. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the same characters, same cast, same plot, same family, all that kind of stuff. So it's really more than a reboot. It's really just a remake of the first Alone in the Dark, which I think is probably the right call. Because most people don't know what this franchise is. It kind of needs to be rebooted for a modern audience.
Yeah, although they already tried to do that at least once.
Which one was the one where they tried to reboot it?
The 2008 game was a reboot.
Okay.
Pretty much. Like, that was a very different take on it. And it made no references to the other games.
So it's like MK. It's like Mortal Kombat. Going for the multiple reboots.
Except I don't think this is going to actually turn out to be the same universe redone by the villain of the last game.
They also said that in true survival horror form, that the ammo in this game is very scarce and every bullet counts. They said especially when you start talking about the higher powered weapons like the shotgun. again, I think most people who enjoy survival horror, that's what they want out of a survival horror game.
In the original first game, I think the shotgun there were like 10 shotgun shells in the whole
like
game.
Total.
It was,
I don't know if they're going to that extreme here.
I mean, there also weren't that many monsters.
Yeah, you're right. The any monster fights were like big moments in the game. I don't know if that's going to be the case here. It seems like they're going to be a little more prevalent in this. I'm not 100% sure. And then maybe the craziest... Also, you can fight with fists. You can fight with guns. You can also pick up items and throw them if you want to. And then the weirdest thing about this is the soundtrack. So it is in Louisiana, around New Orleans. So that's led them to think that this game should have a jazz soundtrack, Matt. But... that seems weird for a survival horror game, but the weirdest part is that there's this subgenre of music I've never heard of called doom jazz. And the soundtrack in this game is comprised of doom jazz. Which, okay.
Subgenre for everything.
Yep, I guess so. And then the final information that they shared for this is that the game is coming out on October 25th. October's a big month, man. There's a lot of games coming out in October. And it's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, so it's a next-gen only game, although you can't really tell it by looking at the visuals, if you ask me. How's your interest in this now? Do you know a little bit more about it?
Like, still zero.
Really? Still have no interest in it?
No. Alone in the Dark is... It was a pioneer at the time. It was the first game that really solidified the 3D survival horror idea before Resident Evil,
Fixed camera angles.
But, like... They've tried multiple times. I would argue there has never been a good Alone in the Dark game.
Agreed. 1,000%. Here you're seeing some of the combat and some of the enemies, at least. So it looks like there's definitely more than there was in the OG version of Alone in the Dark.
Yeah, I like David Harbour, but I don't know if he's enough to get me to spend my time doing this.
I can't think of too many actors that... See, there was the Evade or whatever. I can't think of too many actors where them being in a game would make me want to play the game. Like, I don't know if I can think of any.
As with so many horror things, I feel like it's just going to annoy me.
Yeah.
Even just the throwing stuff. I want to say the throwing thing was also in the 2008 thing.
Oh, really?
Like that was a big... So you can pick up anything and throw it as a weapon. I was like, okay, but does it work? Or is it just like struggling with the menu?
Now, I am a big fan of The Conjuring. And if this game strays pretty close to that idea, that concept, then I'm going to be all about it. But I don't know if it does. It honestly feels like Stranger Things, the video game. To me, at least, it seems a lot like that's what it is. And of course, you have the actor there, which doesn't hurt in selling it. But I don't know. Coming out in October, there's gonna be a lot of competition. I almost feel like this game should have been delayed until early next year, or should have come out earlier this year when it had more of a window.
I mean, I get wanting to put it out near Halloween, but like, you're up against a few heavy hitters. Call of Duty's in there somewhere. Spider-Man's in there somewhere. It's going to get lost.
Yeah. So anyway, this is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. It's coming October 25th. My guess is we'll be seeing a lot more of this game in the coming weeks here because they just really started promoting it and it's coming out in a couple months. So that usually means like what we just got with Diablo, where you just get this dump of media coming in for the game. So by the time October rolls around, you will know everything there is to know about Alone in the Dark. But as of right now, that's about all that we know. Let's go to chat and see what you guys are saying about it, if anything. I have a feeling you guys are probably not all that excited. Mike's Q, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Appreciate it. Contana says, I remember playing the first Alone in the Dark on the 3DO. One of the few games worth playing on the 3DO, I would add.
Yeah, I mean, that and Road Rash, and they had the best port of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And that's about all I can think of.
Justin Horman says, I feel shameful now, but Kevin Spacey in Advanced Warfare was the only reason I played that game.
Wow.
Yeah, after what he ended up being exposed as being, I can understand that. Yeah, Cinetyke says Alan Wake 2 is on the same month. Yeah, you're competing for the same minds. When you're
probably Silent Hill 2 remake in there somewhere.
Maybe. Yep. Everyone's going to try. All the horror games are going to try to get in October because you said it's Halloween. And El Guapo agrees. There really isn't any actor that would get me psyched for a game. Really, me either. Like it's a nice bonus if you like the actor, but it's not something that's going to draw me to actually playing the game. Erebus Jones says looks awful. I don't think it looks awful. But he says I like games in my games. Just go make a film already. Yeah. I mean, you saw that there's actual gameplay in there at least, but it does look... The gameplay that they didn't show it very long. And usually that's for a reason. They said Kevin Roth says the PS3 game was a reboot where there was a blinking button. Yeah. Everyone's bringing up the awful 2008 game. I do not like Cyber Harbor's face. I don't know. I thought it pretty much looked like him.
I recognize that it looks like him, but it's a weird like softening of his features. It makes him look sort of rounded in a weird way. I don't know. It's not a great translation. It's sort of like, what's his name? The guy who played Cal in Fallen Order. Like, I think he looks a lot better in the second game. In the first game, they didn't quite get his face right, so there's an uncanny valley element to it.
Her irritation at the weird shit going on is very relatable. Fire Native says you got to go find the origami killer. Oh, nod to Heavy Rain there. Yeah.
Sean.
Hopefully this game doesn't blow the entire plot.
Sean.
Like they did in Heavy Rain.
Sean.
Yeah. That's right. I played that game all the way to the end.
Remember when I cut out the whole thing where he was going to be the origami killer, but then they left all the hints that he was the origami, so none of that just ever gets resolved? Yeah. It's all just fucking weird, and none of it goes anywhere?
Well, I mean, the big plot in that whole game is that she has the shoebox of clues under the bed, and instead of just opening it and reading all the clues and solving the mystery immediately, she takes them out one by one throughout the course of the game. It's like, no, just take all the clues out and figure out who it is right now. It's like, how did you miss that? Like, if you're making that game, like...
Well, and also, like, there's no way to... The twist makes no sense because of that, because of cut content, and because, like, we should have known that by virtue of what we were doing in the game. Yeah. And then it just does it. It's like... It is one of the most dishonest reveals in the history of, like, whodunit storytelling. It's unbelievably bad.
Nice toil. Press X to Sean. Yep.
Jason.
Yep.
Jason.
Yeah. Matt loves the David Cage games. That's one thing we all know is how much Matt loves anything that David Cage works on.
Anything he touches, indeed.
Turns to gold. Okay.
I wish Elliot Page just sued him more.
Yeah. And also they bring up, which are never explained, because they dropped that plot line.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And somehow I still played it all the way to the end.
If you take the punchline out, you got to remove the joke,
right?
Too.
Yeah.
That's just how that works.
Yeah. I don't understand. Actually, which? Choose one. David Cage or Kojima?
Kojima.
Me too. I'd take Kojima.
As insufferable as Kojima's pretentiousness can be, like, at least he's made a couple games that are games.
At least some of the gameplay is enjoyable in his games.
Like, I don't care that Metal Gear Solid 1 doesn't make any sense. It's a collection of mini games I enjoy.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah. Kojima has at least made at least one game that I consider great.
Yeah, or even like, you know, I don't like Metal Gear Solid 3 or Death Stranding, but at least I can look at those and be like, that's an interesting idea on paper.
And I can understand why some people might like them.
I can get that.
David Cage's games, I really struggle to understand how somebody
the gameplay is garbage, no matter which one you're talking about, and they're all written like, I don't know.
For 12-year-olds, basically.
It's that, but like they certainly don't think they are.
Yeah.
But like, there's not much left to say if you're into like the Kojima and stuff. I'm just like, okay, well, we like different things in terms of gameplay. If you like David Cage's storytelling, I'm like, well, that's unfortunate that you haven't encountered better storytelling than that to know why it's so terrible. But here we are.
Yeah. El Guapo says I'm the biggest Kojima stan here, so I can never be unbiased. What do you guys say, Kojima or David Cage? What do you guys say in chat? It looks like everyone's saying Kojima. Let's flip to chat here so everyone can see it that's watching the show. Cage all day because I love Detroit, says Sneaky.
Well, that's
Erebus Jones says I choose death.
That's a bold thing to admit in public.
The Abrams says I never saw David Cage and Kojima in the same room. Pharaoh Doll says the only people I know who like David Cage always turn out to be bad people. You guys are funny today. Vortex Complex, I'm full send on Kojima deepness. Okay. Rigor Mortis says they should collaborate. Yeah. Danny Endurance says Cage. It actually is kind of split down the middle, actually. You have to play one of their games. Cage and Kojima eats bullet. Okay. Cyber Exile says both of them are frauds. Hi, David Kojima.
Hey, David Kojima.
You guys are funny today. You guys are on your game on this Tuesday. Mike's Q says, if I have to choose between the two, I'll go read a book.
I mean, that's probably the better choice.
Cinetyke says, I actually liked many Cage games, just don't tell Matt. And Ultimate Villain says, I'm a fan of both. Eric Cartmenez,
Well,
neither.
Like they said, they turn out to be bad people, and he is the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Tiny Blip in History says Kojima. I think Kojima narrowly edged out Cage, but it was close.
Kojima absolutely makes better video games.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess if you don't care about some of the worst writing I've ever seen in a narrative game, David Cage could pass the grade. But, like, there's no way to argue that David Cage makes better video games in terms of game mechanics than Kojima. That's just nonsense.
Commander Fett kind of nailed it. He says, at least there's gameplay in a Kojima game. So
exactly.
you get the win. For me, automatically, being a gameplay guy, he gets the win automatically because of that. Kojima Metal Gear Solid is top tier, meaning the first one.
Maybe.
Because to me, after that, it just gradually got less.
I mean, that's the first one's still my favorite one.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Yep.
But, like... I'm still waiting for them to remake that one.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get those remasters, but those are all the same things, more or less, as what came out back on the 360.
Yeah. All right, well, there you go. That's Alone in the Dark. Somehow we ended up on a tangent talking about David Cage and Kojima, because this is GameFace, and that's what we do. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the game you guys probably thought was going to be the first game we talked about, but this game is so damn bad that there's no way it could have been first. And that is The Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Or as the press release called it, the Lord of Ring Gollum.
Is that really what it said?
In their apology for how bad it is, the first time they mention the game, they call it the Lord of Ring Gollum.
Here's what I just want to say. This game was developed by Datalic Entertainment. You guys probably don't even know what Datalic Entertainment is. I only do because I got to curate crap so you guys can read it on Sifted. And Datalic Entertainment just makes one god-awful game after another, and... the god-awful games are point-and-click adventure games. So what has happened here was Datalic was like, you know what, let's actually try to put some action in our games. And they made The Lord of the Rings Gollum. And I'll say this. So its Metacritic right now is 40. And I would say if you actually reviewed games on a full 10-point scale, that's accurate. However, the outlets that have it at the 4... are outlets that review on the 7 to 10 scale. And in that case, I would say that maybe is a little bit low. And now I'm guessing I played it with a patch, so the journalists are playing review code. I played the final version of the game. And so it's not broken in like a buggy, like crash bug kind of way. It's broken in that the developers had absolutely no idea what they were doing. You can tell that this was a game made by people who had never made a game with actual action in it in their lives. Like, I don't even know where to begin. So if you read a lot of reviews, though, they say that there's just bugs everywhere in the game. I read one review that said the game crashed 120 times or something. I have never had it crash. I have not had a single crash bug in the game, and I will admit, I've only played it about 4 or 5 hours because that's all I could stand. Mm-hmm. And again, not because it was crashing all the time, because it's an abysmal video game. So, we'll get the B-roll rolling here, because I know you guys all want to see it.
I have played some of their games before.
Datalic.
I like some of them. I liked some of the Deponias. I liked the Whispered World. But, like, those were... a couple of the Dark Eye games were okay, but those are all adventure games. Yeah, there are no action scenes in any of those games.
And to be fair, there's not a lot of action in this either. It's mostly just a stealth game. But there are times where you have to evade enemies. You have to run fast. There's a lot of platforming. As far as like, there's a lot of climbing. There's a lot of jumping, and the jump is really it's so crazy, man. That little frog dude can jump about 30 feet high.
Why has he got so much hair in this? Is it before he went bald?
People were asking which platform. I played this on PS5, as you're wondering. So this B-roll's all played on PlayStation 5. He looks awful. Schmeagol, whatever you want to call him, Gollum, he looks awful. His eyeballs are gigantic, which is accurate. And they just go in like these random directions. They're trying, because let's be honest, Schmeagol's eyes, very expressive in the films. He doesn't really have to say anything. You know what he's thinking just by looking at his eyes. And they tried to do that in this game, and it's just insane. His eyes are just going all these different directions. They're constantly like, the pupils are constantly shrinking and growing. Like, they just had no idea how to animate eyes in real time. And so it's a joke. Wait, and he looks terrible. You can actually turn on and off the hair effects in this game. And all it does is it either makes his hair look greasy or look like fluffy. That's pretty much the difference that it makes. Well, you can see Gandalf is in this at least, which is nice. You're like, oh, there's two.
Yeah, it looks like Gandalf and Thranduil.
Yeah. Basically, this game.
That's I like that.
What? How they did like
the way that's like the style of the cover of the old printings of The Hobbit.
Yeah,
that's like a nice touch.
I mean, I'll say this, Matt. You can tell that they tried to show the proper respect to the IP, and probably the best part of the game is how they handle the IP. They do hand it with kid gloves and like show it the attention to detail and the respect that it deserves. It's just when you go to actually play the game that the problems start to pop up. The game is set in the time period between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, mostly during his slavery in Mordor. And then basically what happens is you get captured at the beginning of this game, and you're enslaved in Mordor, and you're in this like prison camp or whatever. And it becomes this weird thing where like it's a day by day occurrence the way it's built. Like day one, you go out, and like some days you just go and you stand in a line. Literally.
I heard some people who's like, I want to come home from my job and play a game that isn't like having a job.
Because that's what the first half of this game is. And then eventually you escape because you're trying to get the ring back, Precious. Because it was taken from you like 60 years ago or whatever by the Hobbit. And so once you escape this prison, you try to find him to get the ring back, basically. And that's the overarching plot of the game. And so the first half of the game takes place...
I wonder if he'll get it.
Gee, I wonder.
I do not understand why this game exists.
I don't either, Matt. Probably because they got the license really cheap, is my guess.
But why this? Why is this your idea? I don't understand. I don't know.
You mean with the character or just that it's a stealth game?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do with Schmeagol? Like, he's weak. He weighs like 50 pounds.
Right, so why pick him?
Now, there are moments in this where you can sneak up behind enemies and you can choke them to death somehow. Like,
I mean, he is good at that.
But before they can fling you off, you choke him, and it takes forever. Like, the first time I did it, I hit, like, the triangle button, and he jumped up on him, and I released the triangle button, and he jumped off and was, like, killed. You have to hold the triangle button in. It takes him, like, 10 seconds to strangle him.
I never needed to see Gollum shimmy.
So when I was saying earlier that it's not, like, the bugs that kill this game, it's the fact that the people who made it have no idea what they're doing. So... The type of things that happen in this, Matt, is there's like little sections where you have to like crawl on your belly through these really like narrow crags or whatever. You'll come out of one of those, and as soon as you stand up, there's a cliff, and you just fall off the cliff and die. It's just like level design 101 stuff. Like things that if you had made one game that actually had action gameplay in it, or even really played one for that matter, you would know that is awful level design and so boneheaded. And this game just has it all over the place. Fail conditions for the stealth that are just absurd. The game never tells you what you need to be doing or where you need to go. The graphics are so awful that it's hard to tell in the environment where it wants you to climb or where it wants you to go and where you can and can't go. Like, particularly with the rock like textures, like figuring out which rock textures allow you to climb and which ones don't, very hard in this game. And so a lot of times you'll jump for a wall thinking that you're going to cling onto it, and you don't, and you fall to your death. Now, the funny part about it is that developers have figured out that this game is so bad that there are checkpoints every 5 feet. I'm not exaggerating, Matt. If you die in this, when you respawn, you're literally 10 feet away from where you died. So at a certain point, the developers were like, yeah, if we don't make it very easy to keep playing this game, nobody's going to keep playing it. And I'll be honest with you, I got 4 hours into it. I was like, no more. No mas. I was like, I'm good. So again, it takes place between the events of The Hobbit and the Fellowship of the Ring. The locations that you visit, and I'll probably completely massacre these names. Cirith Ungol?
Cirith Ungol.
Cirith Ungol. Barad-dûr. Barad-dûr, which is what you're seeing now. And then Mirkwood is the final location in the game. And obviously the goal is to try to find Bilbo Baggins and retake the One Ring while, avoiding Sauron, who's always looking. It is set 66 years after Bilbo gets the ring from Gollum.
Yeah. Cirith Ungol, by the way, is that big tower the ring race right out of in Lord of the Rings, and Barad-dûr is the tower with Sauron's eye on top of it.
Okay. I should have known that, but I did not.
Yeah, only if you memorize the names of these weird things.
Yeah, they're hard to remember, honestly. But like the story, so like I said, like the reverence for the IP is one of the highlights in this. But the storytelling is still so awful. Like the voice act. First of all, the voice actor who does Schmeagol is abysmal. Like I think I could imitate Gollum better.
Well, I think they shouldn't even be trying to imitate that. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. It's not the movie license, so you can use your own interpretation. You should go a different direction.
Don't you think people would freak out, though, if he didn't sound like Schmeagol?
I mean, I think they're freaking out worse as it is
when
it doesn't sound right. So, like, do something completely different. Like, go in a totally different direction. I mean, Gollum has looked and sounded completely different many, many times.
That's true.
Because there is no direct description of him beyond the vaguest.
Yeah.
I mean, no one even knows if Balrogs have wings.
Yeah.
Like, because of how Tolkien wrote that sequence.
Yeah.
So, like, do your own thing. Like, that would probably be received better, I think.
The audio mixing in this is terrible. Like, sometimes you can't even hear what he's saying anyway. Like, a lot of the other characters in the game, you can't hear them at all. I had to turn off the music so I could hear what they were saying in this game. Like, the audio mixing is just all over the place. I flipped around to a bunch of different sound modes on my receiver. It didn't matter. It's just the mixing is just bad and way too low. There's also one of the things that they did with this game that could have been cool was they let you play as the character. They let you role play as either Schmeagol or Gollum. So there's certain points where they'll ask you a question and they'll say, "Do you want to answer this question as Schmeagol or Gollum?" Meaning, you know, he has split personalities, so they're different personalities. And you think, oh, you know, how I approach this conversation as one of the two personalities will affect. No, it doesn't do anything. And it's very easy to tell because you can die doing nothing in this game, so you can go back and try the conversation again, and you realize if you choose the other option, it all plays out the same way. So the concept could have worked with the character, but there's actually no payoff for it at all, and so it's just frivolous and basically a sham, which is sad because, again, that was one part of the game where they tried something cool and new, and they just couldn't get it right.
It's weird about the voices. That dude has done voices for many, 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 many years.
What voices?
Many things. Gollum's voice.
Oh. Has he played Gollum before?
Never played Gollum before, no. But he's done other voices in other things, and he's fine in those. Like, nothing like super standout like this guy did this, but it's like he's been in a lot of stuff, and you've heard him in a ton of stuff, and probably never stood out at all. But like, it's weird that like all of a sudden, it's weird looking at his. I mean, he has done a bunch of Daedalic stuff, but it is interesting looking at this and being like, oh, like, why would you pick him to do that voice?
Precious. People are asking me to imitate Schmeagol.
I mean, the most prominent thing I see is he does a lot of additional voices and minor characters, but if you remember the first Witcher game, you remember that, like, really, like, upright knight of the Scarlet, you met in, like, the sewers early on?
No.
Siegfried? Like, he was him. Who's a very, like, almost like the Tick kind of thing. Is like, yes, Witcher, I will team with you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, why? I don't know. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what the auditions were like? But he's also in the Xenoblade. He was Riku in Xenoblade.
Mike's Q says that apparently there's an achievement for all Schmeagol dialogue and all Gollum dialogue, but I don't know if it changes the actual ending. I can pretty much guarantee you that it doesn't change much of anything. And basically the gameplay is split between old-fashioned, like, linear traversal sequences, which you were seeing earlier on, and these weird, awkward, clumsy, and completely uninteresting stealth sections. Schmeagol can pick up rocks and he can use them to, like, manipulate the dumb enemies, and they are dumb. Or here's the kicker, Matt. So if you hide in the shadows in this game, and at first they said, like, hide in the shadows, and I thought that it was just like a suggestion.
Yeah,
it's literal. If you hide in the shadows in this game, they cannot see you. You can be standing next to them in a shadow and they cannot see you. It's insane.
I mean, it's sort of like Horizon.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, you should be able to see her in the grass.
Right, yeah. Well, here it's not even the grass. You're standing in the open.
In a shadow.
In a shadow, right next to them, and they cannot see you. It's absurd.
Well, orcs don't have very good...
Well, it was crazy because I couldn't figure out what the game wanted me to do. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how do I get through this? And then I literally just stood in the shadow, and I realized they could not see you.
You know, it was halfway through Forbidden West when I realized that she hides in red grass because her hair blends in with
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's why. Okay, that's why I can't hide in the other grass. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
I'm glad Gollum went back to the hair club for hobbits there for this game. It's earlier on, before they tore all his hair out, I guess.
Yeah.
They're in the torture between in the Fellowship.
No, you're right. There's more. Yeah, there's more hair there. I don't know, dude. As you play, once you get like the rock throwing ability, you don't really get. And I only played 5 hours, but I played a good 3 or 4 hours where I didn't get any new abilities. No upgrades to existing abilities.
How many new abilities can you get if you're just playing like a crazy naked hobbit?
Yeah, I don't know. He has a stamina meter. You can't improve that throughout the game, and it literally depletes. You can sprint like 3 steps before it's dead. Mm-hmm. And there's certain sections of like, it's so weird. So there's sections of the game where you can like climb and hang as long as you want. And then just randomly they'll be like, you know what? If you hang from this ledge, you only have your stamina meter before you fall. It's what the?
Well, I saw the little tooltip thing.
Look at the eyes.
It says the stamina meter comes into play if you don't have a foothold.
Oh, okay. So if you're just hanging,
put your foot on it, your stamina drains.
Yeah. And again, you can't upgrade your stamina at all. So I'm assuming the whole game is built knowing that you're just going to have that one stamina meter the whole way through.
Which indicates that there's no reason to do that.
Right.
Because there's nothing to overcome that can't just be overcome by holding the stick in one direction.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Exactly. As you guys are seeing, this is one of those games where everything from afar looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's a nice background there.
And then here's what I was talking about, where you can respond as either Schmeagol or Gollum. You can choose like each situation whether you want to act as the insane like Gollum or if you want to play as the more reasoned Schmeagol, or is that reverse? I don't even know.
The what?
Which is crazier, Schmeagol or Gollum?
Gollum is basically evil. Schmeagol is his original Hobbit personality.
As close as it can get.
Yeah.
Before he was transformed. But the closer you get to everything in this game, the worse it looks, as you can see right there. Look at his face. It's so bad. Like that facial animation. Look at the eyes. Look.
He looks like a Muppet with PTSD.
Gollum won the argument. He has arguments with himself.
Yeah, I mean he did do that.
That's
a little more cinematic in the film. But.
Yeah, and then later on they give you a choice of whether you want to eat the insect or let the insect live.
Also, like it's weird in the sense that like the interesting part of the character development in Lord of the Rings is it's after finding some kind of kinship with Frodo that the Smeagol personality starts to actually defy the Gollum personality.
Right.
Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah, yeah.
So the idea that they would argue with each other in this time period makes no sense.
It doesn't. Yep. They're just trying to get something out of the character. You know, I agree with you 1,000%. Why would you make a game about this character? So the closer you get, the more ugly the game looks.
I'd rather play as the Witch King.
Yeah. The closer you get to things, the worse the game looks. And overall, this is just an ugly game. It has an ugly lead character. The levels are ugly. Why would they choose to put you in this prison, this ugly, oppressive place that you don't want to be, with this ugly character that you don't want to play as?
I mean, this is just what Mordor looks like, and it clearly takes place almost entirely in Mordor. I think one of the smartest things Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War did was they gave Mordor green areas.
Right.
They made Mordor have more biomes than just blasted heath and burning volcano.
Yep.
Which is not canonical, but like it makes for better surroundings playing a game.
Yeah. And the enemies look terrible.
This is like a big throwback to like the previous gen, like two gens ago, brown and gray. Everything's brown and gray, brown and gray.
I mean, this whole game, right back to 2006.
Yeah. That's
where this game comes from. That's what I relate it to. Playing games in 2006, this would have been like a 7 out of 10. I hate to admit it, but it probably would have. But it's not just Schmeagol that looks terrible. All the orcs and everything, like their noses are like they couldn't model them right, so it looks like you're looking into their brain, like. Yeah. And like their voice samples don't work half the time, or they come out, you can't hear them, or they just don't play at all. A lot of the characters' faces in the game aren't animated at all. They're talking and their face is just sitting there still. It's just bad. Again, like I have had no crash bugs, nothing like that. The game is just bad all on its own without crash bugs. So if you play a version that does have stuff like that, God help you. That's all I can say. So after the show last week, Matt and I were talking. And we're like, oh, what are we going to have in next week's show? And I was like, oh, well, the Lord of the Rings Gollum is coming out. And Matt was like, no, I don't want to buy that game. I don't want to play it. And I told him, I'm like, that's okay. I'll jump on the grenade. and play it, and that's exactly what I've done. I stuck with it as long as I could. I got to the 4 or 5 hour mark, and that was pretty much as I could take. Do you have any questions about the game, Matt?
Nope.
Yeah.
Can it be recycled?
Yeah, I do wonder what kind of power this IP even has at this point.
I mean, I think the main story is always going to have its power, but like, you know, in terms of doing weird spin-offs, like that's just Warner Brothers being desperate.
Because I watched the Amazon show, and I got like 4 episodes into that, and I quit. I just thought it was boring.
Oh, that was fine. It was. I didn't like the proto Hobbit, clearly a wizard subplot because it just felt like it was wasting time. I know everybody thinks that's Gandalf, but it's totally not.
Yeah.
It's one of the blue wizards. Mark my words. But like a lot, you know, it was interesting seeing some of it. But it's like, again, if that was the interesting part of the story, that's the part of the story Tolkien would have told. Mm-hmm. Like the frustration of telling a story elsewhere in Lord of the Rings is that if you're not telling the story of how Bilbo found the ring and then how Frodo went on the quest to destroy the ring, you are telling a side story.
Yeah.
You are telling a story that cannot have a satisfying or meaningful ending because nothing ends until Sauron's defeated. It's why the new trilogy that probably takes place in the War in the North isn't going to matter because that war ends because the ring is destroyed.
Yeah.
That's not the same story. Like, you can tell probably like the story of the big battles against Morgoth in the First Age, but a lot of that is so far-flung and weird that like people probably maybe would. I don't know. I mean, maybe people would go to see a movie where 100 Balrogs show up.
Yeah.
But like, part of the reason the Balrog is cool in Fellowship is because there's nothing else in that movie trilogy like him.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and on top, I mean, you can do something with it. I mean, I think the Shadow games figured it out, which was like, okay, we just kind of ignore canon, make up our own thing, set it in the trappings of it, and make you really weird and powerful, and like let you play around with it, and then we'll come up with something on its own that makes the game worth playing, which is the Nemesis system, which we're then going to patent and never do anything with ever again.
Yeah. That's a shame.
But like, so that was, you know, those are definitely, I would say, the best non-adaptation of the main story games maybe ever. Mm-hmm. You know, otherwise you're left with things like Battle for Middle Earth, which is retelling the story of the main war, the War of the Ring. Stuff like this doesn't matter. Like, I don't know what this is for. I don't know why it's here.
But you ultimately know where it ends up.
Yeah.
It's like there's not a whole lot of intrigue when you know exactly what's ultimately going to happen. And the other thing I would say, too, is...
in the end, Gollum is not an important character except in the fact that he accidentally completes the quest at the end. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, as Gandalf says, he has a part to play yet. But, like, that's kind of the problem. It's like his main role is in the... he had 2 main roles, and that's to be Frodo's guide and ultimately the solution to the quest of the ring, and to be the person that Bilbo gets the ring from in the first place. And he wasn't even intended to be that because The Hobbit was not written with Lord of the Rings in mind. And in the original printing of The Hobbit, Gollum is actually kind of a jolly little weirdo. Like, he's not a wretched little creature. He gives the ring to Bilbo as his prize for winning the riddle game. Yeah. As opposed to considering Bilbo to have stolen it.
Right.
So...
The other thing I would say about this game, too, is it made me feel bad playing it, because they treat him so terrible. Like, he's constantly being beaten and, like...
I mean, that is canon.
It is, so. But it's just, like, there's nothing redeeming about this game that makes me want to keep playing it. It was just drudgery. The visuals, the voice acting, the characters, the locale, just everything about it just made me not want to play it. Like, there are elements of Daedalus. He's always getting beaten, and I'm just like,
there are elements of Daedalus other games that have always made me wonder what their deal is in terms of sort of what they seem to find funny or what they seem to find interesting. The if you tell me that that's them, and then I look them up and I see that they made the Blackguards games, and I'm like, oh yeah, that tracks. Like, they don't have action game sequences, but they have a similar oppressive tone. The Dark Eye games have that same thing too. Mm-hmm. There's just sort of like there's a little edgelordiness to a lot of what they make. Even Deponia has that in the way that the protagonist of that game does stuff that you're like, I don't want to play as this guy. So yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I thought this game was going to be a loser from the instant they first showed it because it's just such a dumb idea. So
A story untold is because nobody wanted to tell
it's
it.
not worth telling. Also, like, we do know this story. We know that he left the Misty Mountains looking for the ring. He got, bound up in a bunch of Sauron crap out in Mordor.
Yeah.
And then they went looking for him again. After Gandalf and them went looking for him because once Gandalf realized that there was one of those that Bilbo had the ring after his birthday, he goes and looks for it because in the book Gandalf's gone for 17 years.
Yeah, well, 5 of the years are in this.
Yeah, and so they do get Gollum eventually, but he's already been he's been captured and tortured by Sauron at that point. Maybe that's why he lost his hair. But there's a lot of stuff that story is told, and the only thing you need to know about it is what Gandalf tells Frodo at Rivendell, and at the Council of Elrond, because it's not interesting and not important.
Yeah.
All you need to know is that Gandalf and Aragorn do know who Gollum is and have interacted with him before, and that was what Aragorn was doing before he was sent to meet up with the hobbits. Was he was sent to go track down where Gollum was. Yeah, but there's nothing interesting or dramatic to that. It's just a desperate junkie looking for his fix and getting into horrible trouble the whole time. Yeah, that's not a compelling thing to play as in a game, I don't think.
Yeah, and the objectives aren't compelling either. Either you're doing the stealth stuff, you're doing the platforming stuff, or there's these weird sections where monsters will chase you and you need to lead them through these gates that they'll break open for you, so then you can then get to another area where you platform and stealth. It's just, there's not a lot redeemable about this game. I don't know why this game wasn't canceled, Matt. Can you imagine working on this game? This game has been in development for 4 years. Yep. Could you imagine getting to year 2 and being you know what? I think it's a good idea to keep working on this game.
I mean, as soon as that became
call the consulting firm. We'll tell you.
As soon as they started working, if this became my current project, I'd be looking for another job.
Yep. Exactly. So it's terrible. It's not as bad as people say as far as the bugs and stuff are concerned. It's just a really bad game. It feels like it was made 20 years ago. So stay far away. I don't care how much you like The Lord of the Rings. Go on YouTube and watch a compilation of cutscenes, worst case scenario. Do not play this game. Do not buy it. This game is $60. They tried to charge $60 for this game, Matt. It's available for everything. Literally everything. It's every platform. And it's $60 on all of them. This game's going to be $30 within a week, would be my guess.
Yeah, if you really want to play it, you'll be able to get it cheap by Black Friday. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So stay far away. Especially, there's so many great games coming out. This is 2023, people. We got no time for this trash. They should have canceled that game a long time ago. Age of the Legend Watson says, this should be a start point for a new show on Sifted called Why. Vincent says it's not on Switch yet. It's not, but it's coming soon. But who cares? Don't play it. I can't even imagine how awful it will run on the Switch. Yeah. So there you go. That is the Lord of the Rings Gollum, never to be mentioned ever again, except for during our Game of the Year awards, where we give awards for the worst game of the year. That's definitely high up on the list. All right, let's move on to our last topic for today's episode. And I've actually been trying to talk about this game for the last couple episodes. We kept running out of time, and I'm actually kind of running out of time right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm in pain right now. But I want to get through this game because it's been in the last 2 episodes, and we have not talked about it. And that game is Starship Troopers Extermination. Matt, what do you think of Starship Troopers?
I love the movie.
Me too. A lot of people will point to Ferris Bueller's Day Off as the one scene where that turned the boys into men. One shot at the pool where she comes out and she pulls her bikini top off. But Denise Richards in Starship Troopers, I think, was my moment.
When you were 24?
Wait, was I that old?
They came out in 97.
I guess you're right, actually. Well, one thing I remember about that movie is Denise Richards.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Well, one thing I do remember about the movie, though, was Denise Richards. Yeah. She was in her prime, and I just remember I was just mesmerized by her by the entire movie. Any scene that she was in, I didn't look at anything but Denise Richards. If they had technology that could show where the eyes were, my eyes would just be on her the whole time. But I also did love the movie. It was great, and I love the style that they did it in. What was the game from the showcase that we were was it Ghost Runner 2 or...
No, it was the
other one.
The
other two.
It's Helldivers. Helldivers 2.
Yeah, it had a very similar style to that. Well, this is actually a game based upon Starship Troopers, and it's not a game that tries to imagine what ended up happening if they had made another Starship Troopers movie. Which, why did they never make another one?
They made 3 of them.
Really?
And a CG animated series. They're all terrible.
Were the other 2 in theaters, though?
One of them was. The others were direct-to-video.
That's probably why I never knew
Casper
about
Van
them.
Dien came back for the 3rd one. I was at the premiere of that one. They're not good.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
There's a
I never saw them.
I mean, they're not worth seeing. The Roughnecks is the name of the CG animated series. That was all right, but I mean, the problem is that the source material was not the source material. They wrote Verhoeven and his people wrote a anti-fascist like propaganda film, propaganda film from the point of view of the fascists, basically. And it was so close to the premise of Starship Troopers, the Robert Heinlein book, that they basically had to license it.
Oh.
But Verhoeven hated it because the Heinlein book actually endorses sort of a lot of the fascist and authoritarian ideas. Because Heinlein had some interesting opinions, like the whole you have to serve in the military to be allowed to vote. That was unironically promoted in the book and stuff.
Got you.
Apparently Verhoeven, a Holocaust survivor, got 50 pages into the book and threw it across the room and never touched it again. Which fine, because it's a terrible book. However, the one thing I will say that I missed, because it was only there to be not sued. But in the book, we may watch the movie and play this game and be like, why are they fighting giant, super fast, super powerful bugs with basically machine guns on
an
foot?
AK-47.
In the book, they have power armor. They have mechs, basically.
Gotcha.
And the mechs finally showed up. The power armor basically showed up in, I think, Halo-style stuff, like the Mjolnir armor almost. The mechs finally showed up in the 3rd movie, and they look awful. But they do pop up. The power armor is sort of in the CG show. Okay. But that was not what Verhoeven was trying to say. And I'm always curious when they do games or when they do adaptations, how much they take from the book, how much they take from the movie, because they're very different entities and they have very different points of view.
I don't even remember the second one being in theaters at all.
I think it was briefly. They were not big, but none of the original cast was in them. They were just cash-in thing. How they used to do those cheap, fast sequels. They were
they still kind of do them when franchises die now.
Yeah, but that, back everything was straight to VHS, straight to DVD back in the day. You had those just terrible sequels. And Disney did it with their animated stuff too.
It did.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely. So anyway, Starship Troopers Extermination is a cooperative shooter for 16 players. So 16 players at a time go out on this gigantic open world map, and there are these mission objectives that just randomly pop up. Some of them are go over here and wipe out this horde that's about to come in. Some of them are go to these mining positions and defend them while they're attacked by, as they call them, bugs. The only good bug is a dead bug.
So they do seem to have some permutation of the power armor here. They're fully covered. They have helmets. That might just be so they don't have to render people's faces.
But. Yep, I'm guessing that's exactly why. They're convenient that that's actually came along later on in the IP's history. And then you're split into 4 4-man squads. So before the game begins, you choose your squad, and then you deploy and you head out. And it's this series of events that take place every single time. And so far, what I've played, there's only one map. And I'm sure as time goes on, there will be more maps. Although this game does sell for $25. They probably should have had more than one map right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a little surprising.
But the map is gigantic. And it is varied as far as the biomes that you have. And it's a series of events that you kind of take part in every time and you play as a team. As you might guess, it puts you on the far front lines of the all-out battle against all the bugs. You squad up, grab your rifle, and do your part as an elite deep space Vanguard trooper set to take back planets claimed by the arachnid threat.
I'm doing my part.
Yep, exactly. No more? See the lower third there? Want to know more? Is that what he used to say?
Yeah. Do you want to know more?
Yeah. Yep.
There are people that do not understand that this is supposed to be a propaganda satire.
Oh, really?
There are people that can't. I reviewed this for my college paper when this came out.
The movie?
And everyone said I was crazy because I thought it was a satire, that I didn't think you were supposed to take.
Oh, really?
The main. I'm like, Doogie Howser shows up as a psychic Nazi Gestapo guy at the end of the. What you fucking think you're watching here?
Yeah.
It's all framed as a movie from in-universe point of view of this government.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that the bugs don't even send the asteroid that destroys Buenos Aires, and it's a false flag.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want to do on these things. But man, all of it's worth it just for Michael Ironside.
I love the movie when I was.
Oh, I love
saw
that movie. It's. I just watched it like a year or two ago. It's still great.
Yeah.
Still holds up.
Now, the game tries to share the same tone as the films. I think in some ways it succeeds, in other ways it doesn't. It's not as personal as the film is because you never really see anybody, like their faces. No one ever sees your face. There's no personification in it, really. It's just this nameless, faceless, you're just this space marine dude with a gun, and everybody around you is a space marine dude with a gun. Really, what they're trying to do is building the camaraderie with the players that actually are playing the game. And that is one thing that this game does a great job of. So basically you have like 4 mission objectives that you have to complete. And as I mentioned earlier, like some of them are just wiping out a horde of the aliens. Sometimes you're defending mining equipment as they mine resources. And then you're picking up the containers with the resources and carrying them over to a depot. After you go through like a series of 3 or 4 mission objectives like that, then it always culminates with, okay, it's time to go back to the base, build the base, and then defend it from this insane onslaught of frickin' bugs. It is insane. My PC couldn't run it. That's why we are using footage from another YouTube channel that I gave credit to there at the beginning, because my PC couldn't run it. It was fine until it would get to this part, where you build up, and the building in it is very intuitive and very easy. There are a lot of other games that have building in them that could take some cues from this game, but you're under the gun. So when you start building, you have like 2 minutes to build and fortify your base before the enemy start attacking. And it just becomes complete mania. There's literally just thousands of bugs attacking you at once.
Yeah, the visuals aren't amazing. Like there's tons of popping, but like once those assaults like are pretty impressive.
Oh, it's insane. Like, I don't know what kind of a PC you need to have to be able to run it 4K full bore, but my PC couldn't handle it. So I was like, man, my footage makes this game look terrible, so I had to use somebody else's. But again, it's 16 players you're playing cooperatively with, and they're really, the one thing I'll say about this game is there is a real feeling of team in this. Because you have to. Like I said, even if you're just at the mining stations and you have one guy trying to wait for the canister to fill it, you got to defend that guy. And so the other thing I was impressed too is how many people are communicating playing this. Almost everybody had a headset. I don't know if that's a PC thing. Like, I don't play a ton
It's more common on PC, yeah.
I mean, almost everybody was talking. And then at the end, when you defend your base from the bugs, and it's just intense and insane, and you finally, if you get to the point they're like, okay, you did it, then you have to extract. And the extraction is even more insane than defending the base. It's literally this mad dash from the base that's already crawling with bugs to, a couple hundred yards away to the extraction ships. And then once you get to the ships, it doesn't end either, because if you get inside the ship, you're waiting for everybody else to get in so you can extract with all the loot and everything. And people are rooting you on. Like, I was outside, like, fighting off bugs, and I could hear people in the ships going, go, Dinfire, get it, go. Like, it's awesome. I haven't played a game in forever where my teammates were rooting me on. Like, they're calling me by name. Do it, Dinfire. Use your grenades. They're, like, trying to, like, coach me. And, like, I was like, this is freaking awesome. And then if you do make it inside the escape pods and you go up, then you get the loot that you collected throughout the course of the game, and you level up, and you get new weapons, and you get improvements to the weapons you already have. You get new grenades. You get all the stuff that you can then use for your next run. I had a blast playing this game, Matt. I expected so little out of this game, and I had so much fun playing this. I have not played a cooperative game with this much cooperation in forever. Like, people were just into it because it's hard. Like, you get stuck out on your own in this game, you're screwed. Like, you need at least a couple people with you at all times because you can just, like, as you saw in that clip right there, they just come up out from the ground. So you may think you're safe, all of a sudden you're surrounded by bugs. And there's reviving in this, and, the other thing too, I would die, and I'm like, oh, I'm done. Because I'm like 200 yards away, everybody's already building up the base, like trying to fortify it for the bugs coming in for the big attack. No one's going to come over here and revive me. Next thing I know, some dude would come over and be like, I got you, Dinfire, and revive me. Like, I don't know what it is about this game that engendered such awesome feelings from the people playing it, but I was like blown away. I'm like, why is this game like this? And all these other games I play, no one ever has mics, no one cares if you die. Like, I had a great time. Again, it is $25. It's only on PC, and it is technically in early access right now. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is how they look at it. They're like, oh, we can get away with only one map or whatever, because they're like, oh, it's only $25. It's in early access. People don't expect that much from it. the one map thing was probably the biggest sticking point for me. But all the other unlocks, like, and again, because people really work like a team in this, like, I basically won every match. Like, I extracted almost every time. I was leveling up quickly. I was getting new weapons. I was getting improvements to the existing weapons that I had. The loop itself, I thought was awesome. I had a blast with it. I had a lot of fun with this game. Again, it's PC only right now. Eventually, I'm guessing it will come to consoles if it can survive this kind of early access on PC. But again, you're seeing the building interface is so easy. It's just this little, you can see it right there, a little interface. You just tap a key. It comes up along the bottom. You choose what you want to build, and then it'll just on the fly tells you whether you can place it or not. If it's green, you can place it. If it's red, it's not. It's very simple. I think more games could take a lot of cues from the building in this game. Very user-friendly. Everything plays the way it should be. Repairing stuff is easy once the bugs have started attacking stuff. I've had a lot of fun with it. Do you have any questions about it?
Not really.
Zed Saber's asking, more fun than Back for Blood. That's a close one. I would say Back for Blood's better right now because Back for Blood launched with a lot more content. Mm-hmm. The fact that this only has one map is a pretty big detriment to it right now. And I think that obviously that'll change over time. But right now, yeah, Back for Blood's the better game because it was a full game when it launched. This is just early access. They're like, oh, we got one map done. We got all the mechanics working. It runs well. Let's put it out there and start taking feedback from the players so we can make it better. So, yeah, I would say Back for Blood, the better game right now, but I think eventually this will be the better game. At least for my taste, it'll be the more interesting game over time. Kevin Rafa asks, who made this game? That's a good question, actually. I should have written that down, and I did not write it down, unfortunately. There is one criticism I do have about this game, and it's the traversal. The climbing, the clamoring is abysmal. It's way worse than...
it was made by Off-World Industries.
Off-World Industries? They've made a couple other pretty big games, actually.
I have never heard of any of them.
Yeah.
Squad, Postscriptum, and Beyond the Wire.
Squad, I think, is the one.
They're all World War II games.
Yeah.
Or squad-based, like, military games.
Yeah, the clamoring in this and the climbing and the traversal is even worse than in Boltgun. It's just very awkward. You never know whether you're going to actually climb over something or not, and it does put you in some bad positions because sometimes you're trying to escape like literally like 40 bugs like running after you, and you're trying to just jump up over a wall, and sometimes you don't make it and you just die. So that is one thing that they could definitely work on with this game. Like, it is one part that is not up to par with the rest of the game. I should go through the classes very quickly. There's the Hunter class, which is basically assault infantry, and they have a jetpack. Every class has a special ability or a special move. And, you know, I'm a tribes guy. I'm all about the jetpacks, but the jetpacks in this game suck. I'll just be honest with you. It's not implemented very well. You get, one kind of boost. It's hard to control.
I mean, that's part of the theme in Starship Troopers is that their equipment kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
They are woefully under-equipped for what they have to do.
No, you're right. That was kind of part of their thing. It's like you basically are just being thrown into a meat grinder. It's like when they sent you out to the field, like you were expected to die, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. The second class is the Bastion class, which is basically a heavy infantry. Its special ability is it has a crazy proximity mine. And then there is the Operator class, which is basically the support class. Anybody can revive other players, but the Operator class revives them more quickly, so there's an advantage there. And they can also heal people before they die, so they can give you health packs or whatever. So there's not just about reviving, it's actually about maintaining people as well. But again, there's no single player in this. It's all this. That's all there is. There's no bots to join in, which some people may be happy about. And there's no PvP. So there's no player versus player in this at all. This is the game. 16-player, cooperative play. And I love that people are buying into it and actually playing it the way that it's intended to be. It probably could use a few more in-match objectives because I was kind of doing the same things over and over again. There was like 4 or 5 different objective types, and that pretty much just kept being repeated over and over again. So they could do that. I also feel like there could be more emergent moments where just like a gigantic creature just comes up from the sand and it's like, oh my god, this massive boss just appeared out of nowhere. Everybody come over here and help. Let's fight the boss. Like, I wish there was a little bit more than that. It's a little formulaic right now the way it is. It's not very spontaneous. It's a little contrived. So that's one thing that they could fix, I think, to make it a little bit better. But really, it's what really attracted me to this is the cooperative spirit. The other thing, too, is that you may think these matches are really long. They're not that long. They're like 20 minutes or something like that, which is a commitment, but not that bad. I felt like it was worth it. Like, I never felt like, oh, my God, I just wasted 20 minutes playing this boring-ass. I had fun with it pretty much every time. So, yeah, I recommend this game. That's one thumb up from GameFace. And again, it's $25. It's in early access on Steam right now. It's the only way you can get it. Not even announced for consoles yet, but I'm guessing it will come eventually. And I hope it does, so more people can play it and enjoy it just like I did. And there's the 3 classes that you can choose from. Again, when you start, you have to join a squad. There's 4 squads of 4. When you die, you spawn on your squad, which can be very helpful instead of having to run and back. Because, again, the map is really big. So if you were to respawn and have to run from the starting point all the way to where everybody is, it could literally take you like 5 or 10 minutes just to get there. So the squads, just like in the Battlefield franchise, you just basically need it. Like, this game would be almost unplayable without the squads. But yeah, I had a ton of fun with this. Again, this was supposed to be in the show a week ago, and I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, I'm not cutting it for good. I played it. I really enjoyed it. I need to tell people about it. And so here we are in episode 344 talking about Starship Troopers Extermination. Now, Matt, knowing that you love the IP, and after I just talked about the game, do you have any interest in giving it a go?
Maybe it's a little steep for
the dollar amount.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, for one map. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know, I think the thought is you're a part of the team making the game better. It's your typical early access crap,
yeah.
But your mileage will vary on that. Some people are, you just want, like, if I pay $25, I want 4 freaking maps, and I don't blame you if you look at it that way. But I did play this for days just with that one map because it's really big, and they do mix it up. Like, it's not like every time you play they put your base in the same spot on the map. Like, the base will be moved around for every match, and all the other objectives will be moved around too. So they do a pretty good job of mixing things up, so it doesn't feel like you're just playing the same thing like over and over and over again. And again, as you're leveling up, you're getting new weapons and new abilities and increases, and that helps you stay on the squirrel wheel. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys play games enough to know exactly what I'm talking about. Justin Horman said, it seems like a good game for a sifted crew to get games together. I mean, that's the cool thing, right? Is that, like, typically when you play cooperative games, like, you can only have, like, 2 or 3 of your buddies playing with you. And this, literally 16 of your friends can all join in, and you are just, it's, again, the feeling of teamwork in this is awesome. It really makes a difference in how much fun it is to play. Vinaraba says, all the games they made are heavy on comms, so it makes sense. So he's saying that all their old military-style shooters also were heavy on teamwork, and therefore a lot of people would be playing with mics and stuff. I haven't played a game with that many people with mics in a long time, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, most PC players do seem to have headsets. Just some of them use headsets for audio for their games anyway. Not I don't, but if I don't have to have something over my ears or in my ears, I won't. But
it's like I play Modern Warfare 2 all the time.
A lot of people have stuff like that anyway because of Discord or Zoom meetings or whatever, what have you.
PlayStation 5 has it built into the controller. So everybody has it. And the problem is that nobody uses it for what it's meant to be used for. They sit there and they just play their music really loud, or they're coughing, they're doing bong hits.
PlayStation 5 should default that to off.
Yeah. I turn it off every time.
Yeah.
It's annoying. So I turn mine off. I don't even turn it on in Call of Duty because it's pointless. No one even listens. Like, I'll be like, oh my God, they're all over here. Nobody ever responds. No one ever shows up. Like, but for whatever reason, this game, people are on it. I haven't had people root for me in a video game, and I don't know how long.
I'm going to bet you that you will not have that experience on the console version.
Probably not. You're probably right. It's a different clientele. It's a different person. It's younger. Yep. Yep. Probably hear a lot more racial slurs on consoles as well.
I mean, that's what voice chat on consoles is for.
Yeah, it seems like it. Vortex Complex. I think too many rude people just ruined online comms. That's all. It's true, man. It sucks that they ruined it for everybody, but it's just the way it is. See if you guys have any more questions about it. Faradol, you lost me at tower defense. Yeah, I mean, the end of the game is technically you're defending your base. I guess that's tower defense, but it's like all active. Like,
well, that's also sort of the big central action scene in the movie is that them defending that fort against.
And there are traps too. Like, you can set up like electrocution traps outside of your base to slow them down, and so there is a little bit of tower defense to it. But I personally love tower defense, so that's not a detriment to me. But if you don't like that type of stuff, I could see where it wouldn't be for you. Sneaky says, I would rather play Gollum instead of this. It looks very boring. What? Sneaky, I'll never figure you out, bro. I will never figure you out. I think he said on Sifted one time he had never played a Nintendo game or something.
Earlier today, he was saying that Diablo, he didn't know what Diablo was because it's not a thing here in Ireland, I guess.
Sneaky, I'll never understand you, man.
I guarantee you Diablo is a thing in Ireland.
I guarantee it. Anyway, I had a blast with it, and I do like the IP, but I don't think that it's like if you watch that B-roll, it's not like you're watching. You're like, that's all about whether you like Starship Troopers or not. Like, I don't think that's it. It helps, but I don't think it was why I ended up enjoying the game ultimately. It was just fun, and it was just frenetic and nonstop, and the feeling of teamwork and working together. I wish I got more of that in games in general. It just feels good. Having somebody root for you feels good. I can't remember the last time somebody in a video game I was playing with rooted for me. Like, I just can't. Like, so that's the type of stuff that this game does. Sound Wizard, thank you for the tier 1 subs, man. That's awesome. I see what you're doing. Wow, a ton of them. Wow.
20.
Thank you, Sound Wizard. That's amazing, dude. Mel Pintor, Diablo is definitely a thing in Ireland, LOL. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Starship Troopers Extermination. Again, it's in early access right now on Steam. You can buy it for $25, which is a little steep, but they are adding and fixing things and changing it continually. And again, I think the community there is pretty awesome. All right. And with that, it's time for... That's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you a series of 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the video game before this guy. Big note here. I'm running out of codes for Name That Game. I think I only have like 3 left. And I can't afford to just give away, unfortunately. I wish I could. It would be awesome if I could afford it. I can't afford to just give away games every episode of GameFace. And Swanland had given us literally like 20 or 30 free games to give away for Name That Game because they were just games that he had keys for that he just didn't use. So if any of you guys are out there and like that and you just have this deluge of game keys that you're not going to do anything with, send them my way and we'll
I actually
give them...
do have a lot of Humble Bundle.
Okay.
But they're going to be old, like years old.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a free game.
I stopped getting the monthly bundle like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot in there if any of them are still any good.
Yeah. Well, if Matt has enough codes, we can keep giving away games. Or if you guys have any, just contact me on Sifted or on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire or wherever. And let me know if you have codes that you want to give away. And if not, like, we could still keep playing the game without a prize. Like, I don't know if you guys are into that. Let me know in the chat whether you guys still want to play, even if there aren't prizes for it. Again, I wish I could afford to give you guys prizes. I just can't, unfortunately. So anyway, let me know if you guys are cool playing it without... Oh, JM Rain, dropping some tier 1 subs too. Thank you, man. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. So anyway, a couple rules before we get going and Name That Game. First of all, if you don't play PC games, don't play. Now, if you win, it is your code. If you know somebody that you can give it to that is going to play it, that's totally fine. It's your code to do whatever the hell you want with it. Just don't play if you're not going to do anything with the code and it's just going to sit in your inbox and it's not going to be used. There are people who actually play the games. Number 2, the chat is in slow mode. So don't just spam the chat with game titles. You get 1 guess every 60 seconds. Make sure that you make them count. And number 3, if you've already won this year, do not play. You cannot win. Don't take the game away from somebody who hasn't won this year. Just sit back, kick your feet up, and watch the mayhem. And with that, I think we're ready to go. Okay. This one, I'm going to predict will make it to screenshot 3. We'll see. I'm always wrong. Because you guys are just like freaking geniuses. All right, here we go for Name That Game for episode 344. Here is the first screenshot. People are saying they'd be willing to play even without prizes. That's cool. What we've been seeing lately, Matt, is people are afraid. Mass Effect 3, no. Parappa the Rapper, no. Too Quick Capri. A nod to my t-shirt. Halo 2, no. Skyrim, no. Dragon's Dogma, no. Shadows of Mordor, no. Kingdoms of Avalon, no. Interesting. A lot of Shadows of Mordor there. But that's not it. Witcher 3, no. Destiny, no. Doom, no. Red Faction Guerrilla, no. Alan Wake, no.
Those triangle-shaped rocks are familiar, but I don't know what they are.
That's why I put them in there. Just Cause 3, no. Gears 4, no. Tomb Raider Underworld, no. Gears 4, no. Halo 3, no. Halo Reach, no. Okay, I think we're going to go to image 2. And here it is. This one might give it away. Halo Reach, no. Now, it definitely reframes things. I have a feeling the people who guessed on the first one are like, damn it. Some people should be able to get it from this. People aren't even guessing. Crash Bandicoot, no. Infamous, no. Ark Survival Evolved, no. That's a good guess, though. Jedi Fallen Order, no. Rogue Leader, no. That's a good guess, too. Next screen, take the W, Shane. Half-Life, no. Dino Crisis, no. That's a good one, too. That's a good guess, Kevin. Okay, looks like we're going to make it to the third one. Enslaved, no. But that's a good game for me to use and name that game. I'll make a mental note of that. Dead Space, no. Gears 3, no. Someone already guessed Gears 3, I think. Definitely guessed Gears 4, for sure. Okay, I think we're going to the third screenshot. I actually hit my projection this time. And here it is. Vanquish, no. That's a pretty good guess, though. Kena, no. Far Cry, no. Watch Dogs, no. Fable 3, no. Oblivion, no. Titanfall, no. No guesses, Matt?
Doesn't look familiar. Other than those triangle rocks. Some kind of Crisis, maybe.
Not Crisis. Final Fantasy 15, no. Titanfall 2, no. That's a good guess, though.
If I knew what it was, I'd recognize the glowy fruit.
That's why it's there. That's why I put it in there.
I don't remember what that is.
Skyrim, no. Anthem, no. That's a good guess, too.
Doom.
Not Doom. Kingdoms of Amalur, not bad either. Nope. Last Guardian, nope. Fable 3, nope. Just Cause, nope. Uncharted 2, nope. Uh-oh. I may have stumped you guys finally. Far Cry Primal, no. God of War Ragnarok, no. Too Human, no. So many guesses. Someone already guessed Oblivion, Clay. Tears of the Kingdom. Well, if it was a slideshow, then maybe.
Yeah, not with that lighting. Sorry.
God of War PS4, no. Now they're starting to name consoles. The game about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse or something number 3. Nope. Haze, no. You guys are starting to go into the deep cuts now. Okay. Looks like we're going to image 4. Hot damn. Here we go. Image 4. Name that game. Days Gone, no. Far Cry Instincts Predator, no. Darksiders 2, no. I think I stumped you guys. I've finally done it. Maybe this will be, I think, the second or third time we've ever made it to the 5th image. Ever. Darksiders 2, no. Death Stranding, no. Chaos Legion, no. Last Guardian, no. Xenoblade, no. Metal Gear Solid 3, no. Mass Effect, no. Ark Survival, nope. Someone guessed that already. Assassin's Creed Origins, no. Fire Emblem, no. Evil Dead, no. Biomutant, no. We have a winner! Finally! It is Warframe! There we go! Wow. Contano, congratulations! Hybrid Heaven. Someday Hybrid Heaven's going to be in there.
One day.
One day.
Yeah, I played Warframe probably like 50 hours. I didn't recognize any of that.
Yeah. It's varied. The environments in that game are all different, so it's hard to really nail down a theme. Great job, Contano. Finally somebody got it. I was like, damn. Like, people are running out of games to guess. And here's the final image, and obviously this one would have just totally given it away because I actually showed you a Warframe there. But yeah, it was Warframe. Great job, Cantano. Another round of applause there. So we made it to image 4. I'll take that. So Cantano, all you got to do, send me a DM on Twitter at Dinfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter at Sifted Games. You can send me a DM on Sifted at Shane. You can send us a DM here on Twitch. Whatever you want to do to get at me, just let me know, and I'll send you your code. And congratulations once again for winning Name That Game. That's freaking awesome, dude. And even though I am in pain, we're still going to do a Q&A, people. We're still going to do it. I'm going to fight through here, and we're going to do it. So if you have any questions for us, go at Sifted Games in the chat so we can pluck it out from all the other conversation. I love that Cantano is happy that he won. Finally got one. That's awesome, dude. Let's head to chat and see what you guys are asking us. El Guapo 3385, with the announcement of the MGS collection on current gen consoles, I'm still befuddled if MGS4 is included.
It is not.
It's not.
It's 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But
and also
Volume 1.
But also, it comes with the original Metal Gear, like not Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear, like the original. The first 2 Metal Gear games are also included, but not Metal Gear Solid 4. Matt, what's your hype level for Rise of the Beasts?
Meh.
Me too.
We'll see.
Yeah. I'm keeping my mind open. I like the look a little bit better. They don't look like a bunch of hydraulic insects. Like
yeah, well, I mean, it's a sequel to Bumblebee, so they're using more similar designs to that.
Yep. And I love Bumblebee. I thought it was great. So if it's like Bumblebee, I'm going to be all over it. So I'm trying to stay positive. I guess I'll look at it that way. Sneaky, hope you get back to normal soon, Shane. Thank you, man. I'm really starting to wonder. It's like I'm 3 weeks post-op. I never dreamed I would still be in the position I'm in right now, 3 weeks post-op. Especially when my surgeon was like, after 2 weeks, you'll be good. You'll be right back to your normal life. I'm not. I'm still beholden to pain pills and ice packs. So it is what it is. The Legacy, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. I really appreciate it. Please, everybody, subscribe with Twitch Prime. Man, we got the payout for last month. It was so low. I don't know why you guys have stopped doing it. Please start doing it again. We need that money. And it's free. It costs you guys nothing. Please. I hate to beg for money, but we really need that money to survive. Red Fox 1980, do you think anything Sony will show up at Summer Game Fest? That's a good question.
Hard to say.
I think a lot of people, that's wishful thinking right now because people are like, where were the first party games? I saw that like someone did a podcast and the title was it was a Sony event without the Sony. But there was Sony. It was like 12 first party games. It's just not the Sony that you wanted. You knew this was coming.
Yeah, I don't really understand what people thought.
I don't either. You knew this was coming. They've been messaging that they were working on 10 games as a service for the last 2 years. You knew this was coming. Did you think some magical... I don't understand what people are thinking.
Like Last of Us 3?
Yeah, like what?
I mean, some people were expecting GTA 6 and Wolverine and a bunch of nonsense that was never... Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2.
I don't know what you guys were thinking.
Like, they ain't promoting that before Final Fantasy 16's out. Come on.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. That's how PR works.
Yep. The Legacy. What's worse? Game of the Generation, Gollum, Redfall, Balan Wonderworld, or Crossfire? Balan for me.
I don't know if he topped Balan Wonderworld. Just
because there's just nothing appealing about it at all.
Yeah, just
nothing.
top to bottom, just everything is a terrible idea.
At least Gollum, if you're like a hardcore Lord of the Rings fan, there's something to glean from it.
Like there's a universe where that Gollum game is pretty good.
It's like, a weird universe I want no part of, but
like there's not. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't want to try it, but like you could theoretically make a decent Gollum stealth game.
Yeah. Given
the right team, right idea, and right time.
That just wasn't it.
But like, there's no. And Redfall is just a failure to execute. Crossfire is a failure. Balan Wonderworld should have been like someone should have tackled Naka and dragged him out of the meeting room the instant it was pitched. Like, there's no.
They couldn't find him though because he was too busy insider trading.
Yeah.
He was over in a closet with his cell phone insider trading. So anyway, to answer Red Fox's question, do you think anything Sony will show up at Summer Games Fest? I don't. I think
probably not. Originally, I might have said that Factions might show up there, but it sounds like Factions is not.
After Naughty Dog
anywhere.
Put the kibosh on it, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think we will see anything PlayStation. I think that's why they did the showcase, and that's what they have. Those are the games that they have. They're close to release.
And that's also what they've done the last, 3 years. They show us some stuff they want to show in May, and we don't see them again for 3 months.
Yep. It's absolutely true. So, yeah, I don't suspect we'll see anything more Sony from the not E3. That's what I'm calling it now, not E3, instead of E3. Just this whole period that's coming up here.
E0.
Yeah, E0. What else we got here? Dustin Horman, what's your favorite Michael Ironside performance in a movie? Total Recall, Starship Troopers, Highlander 2?
I mean, Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I think that, to me, that's his seminal role. He probably doesn't like to hear that, but...
He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, so many.
That was very good. I mean, he's very good in Top Gun, although it's a much smaller role.
Yeah.
But I think just about anybody who was around in the 90s remembers him in Starship Troopers, even if they don't remember anything else about that movie.
Yep. Other than Denise Richards. She was so hot in that movie.
He was also a very good Batman. He voiced Batman in the Dark Knight, little Dark Knight short thing in one of the episodes. One of the late episodes.
I don't remember that at all.
That was an episode, I think season 4, and it's a bunch of kids telling each other stories about what they think Batman is, and one kid tells the story of basically it's a scene from The Dark Knight Returns, and Michael Ironside voices him in the fight with a mutant leader, and it's very, very good. It's a very good choice for that version of Batman.
He has a distinctive voice. Vincent asks, what are the plans for not E3 coverage this month? Are you going to talk over Microsoft and or Ubisoft? Probably not. It worked out beforehand because there would be multiple things in one day. And we could show up. Matt and I could sit here for 3 or 4 hours. We could bang out 3 or 4 shows and off we go. Everything's all spread out. Everything's a la carte now. So, look, we did do a special episode for PlayStation's E3 press conference, not E3 press conference. So maybe we do something the next day or whatever. Because the other thing too is that if I have time to do pre-production, it's way better because we can show you the games while we're talking about them. We actually got some compliments on our coverage of the PlayStation Showcase because we did it the next day. It was still timely, but we were able to show you the games while we talked about them instead of because what happens is we watch the press conferences live. We do our commentary live, and you guys are there. And then afterwards, we do analysis, but you can't see the games because we've had no chance to process the B-roll. So I'd prefer to do it maybe the next day when we can actually show you the games as we speak about them. So that's the plan for right now. If things change, I'll let you know. As we get closer, I'll give you guys more information on it. Good question, though, Vincent. Estmont, I love the show, but your discussion about Tears of the Kingdom made me feel old. I guess sooner or later we all become the old guy complaining about the world changing. I don't think that's what it was. I don't think that was us standing on our lawn. We're just saying that we just don't like the new Zelda. We don't do it with other games or other franchises. Zelda used to be my favorite franchise. It's not anymore. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. Think about that. My whole life, people have asked me, what's your favorite video game? And I have said Zelda. My whole life. I can't say that anymore. That's a big deal. That's not an old man standing on the lawn saying, get off my lawn. That's someone saying, there used to be something that I really enjoyed that's not there anymore. That's it. And look, we even said, we totally understand that some of you guys really like it, and we get that. And if you do like it, it's your game of the forever. We just said that it's not for us. That doesn't mean we're old and we're not willing to accept change. We're only willing to not accept change in Zelda? That makes no sense at all.
To be fair, you're also not willing to accept change when E3 goes away.
What?
To be fair, you're also not willing to accept change when E3 goes away.
But I did.
But that's sort of the same thing of here's this thing that was my favorite thing, and now it's not that thing.
Yeah. But I also did accept change, obviously.
Right. But that's, because there's no choice. This thing sold 10 million copies. It's what Zelda's going to be from now on. There's not, what can you do?
There's nothing I can do except say that I don't like it. Yeah. That's it. You want me to lie? Is that what you want me to do? That's not me. I'm not a liar. One thing you're going to get from me is the frickin' truth every time.
And there are very few changes to things that I, and especially game franchises that I generally think most changes as time has gone on have been good.
Well, the other thing too about Zelda is it's not, the old design of Zelda doesn't feel old.
No.
It doesn't feel overdone because nobody else does it.
Well, sometimes, but usually not as well.
I mean, I can think of 2 franchises that really tried to make real Zelda games. That's pretty much it.
I mean, it's Darksiders and I mean, they're hard.
It didn't need to be replaced. As I said, when we discussed Tears of the Kingdom, they could have very easily used that new idea on another IP and just kept Zelda. I don't understand where all the consternation is.
Nintendo, as we know, doesn't like to do, especially Miyamoto, doesn't like to make something unless there's some random new thing in it. That is one of the reasons I don't like the obsession with innovation that some people in the industry have, where it's like execution is more important because constant obsession with there has to be something new, has to be something innovative is how you end up with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. Director J, yes, I played Darksiders. That was one of the 2 franchises I was talking about. Yeah.
I like Darksiders too, but there's too much stuff in Darksiders too. There's like there's so many collectibles. Like it's like Star Fox Adventures. It's like how many things do you want me to collect, dude? Like give me a break.
Yeah.
But also another great Michael voiceover, Michael Wincott as Death. He's great.
Cantano brings up Michael Ironside, Splinter Cell.
Yeah,
he was great in that too. Yeah. Kevin Rothwell, you go through the midway point of your gaming fantasy against Matt soon. Yeah, we're in June, so we're kind of halfway there. I'm looking real good, people. I know you guys all thought my team sucked, but you were wrong. That's all I got to say. It's really going to come down to whether all your games release.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to have a full team, because you also have done really well with your games that have released so far.
It only comes down to Spider-Man. If Spider-Man doesn't slip out,
you'll have all your games.
Be a full team.
So it could be tight this year. It could be really close.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is great. Usually it's like it's over by now.
If Redfall had had not been terrible, I think it would be neck and neck or I would be ahead.
Yeah.
But I don't think I am anymore.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's going to be dependent on Starfield for me, obviously.
Yeah, I did get...
And that could get a 4.
I did get Street Fighter, though.
That's true. Yep.
And yeah, Starfield is a huge X factor.
Yep. So we'll see. I think it's going to come down right to the end. Really, to me, the question was whether Matt had all 10 games. Like, I didn't know that... I thought for sure that you were going to be one short or something, but no.
No, not right. I mean, I am down 2 because of...
But both your alternates are going to come
Suicide Squad and... Forza, assuming Forza comes out this year.
It'll come out this year.
But Suicide Squad and... One other one are just gone.
This could be the first year that both of us have all 10 games.
Yeah, Forza needs to come out, and Space Marine 2 needs to come out.
That's set in stone. That's happening. They just did an event this weekend, and it's absolutely coming out this year.
But I've lost 2. So, and both alternates are already out. Company Heroes 3 and some other one that already came out. Yeah. Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are already 2 games in the main list that dropped out. It was Suicide Squad and something else.
Yep. Business says the schedule is Jeff Thursday, Xbox Sunday, Ubisoft Monday. That feels like just wait until Tuesday to me, but we'll wait and see. Maybe we come in and maybe we do it. I know. I mean, it really sounds like doing a Tuesday. We'll see. Just stay tuned. We'll let you know. Okay, I think that's it, maybe. Shane, did you get to play Darksiders 2? We answered that already. Oh, will you cover the System Shock recent release for next week? Just launch. I doubt it, because we got Diablo and Street Fighter 6 for next week's show. That's a lot of playing. Street Fighter, not quite as much. I'm glad I already played a lot of it through the couple betas that I played through.
But now you got to tour the world and become the strongest.
And I will. That's what I'll play. And I'll play a ton online against other people. Play against me. I'm Denfire. So probably not System Shock next week. Maybe the show after. I haven't really looked ahead in June to see what the second week has. Mm-hmm. I will be soon, though, because I'll be working on Dossier here the next day and a half. So
I don't think there's much the second week, but then you get into Final Fantasy 16 a couple weeks in.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got good stuff coming up on GameFace here in the not-too-distant future. Speaking of some other good stuff, head to our Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. Especially if you're watching this show on YouTube or you're listening to it on any of the podcast services out there. If you've been getting years and thousands of hours of enjoyment out of GameFace, it would be awesome if you could go and support us. You can pledge whatever you want. You can just give us $1 a month if you just want to do it because... $2 a month gets you Pactor Factor. $4 a month gets you all our content early. GameFace, you get it 4 or 5 days early. Pactor Factor, you get a week early. Or you could just subscribe with Twitch Prime and you get Pactor Factor free at twitch.tv/siftedgames. There's tons of ways to support us. And we appreciate all of them. And it would be great if you could do that. Another way you can support us is to support our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a great sponsor for us. I love it. It's a great product. It's very nice to have a sponsor for a product that you actually enjoy and you want to support, and you guys should support it too, head to creamls.com. Again, there's a store locator there where you can find it where you live locally, or you can find links where you can order it online. Support our sponsors because they support us, and when you do that, they keep coming back. So if the sales of LS Cream keep doing well, he's going to keep supporting us with sponsorship, and that makes a huge difference for us. That, and again, Twitch Prime, please, if you've stopped doing that, please go to twitch.tv/SiftedGames and pledge. I realize that, you know, some of you guys may want to save your Twitch Prime for other channels. I would argue that we're the ones that need it the most. Like, if you're giving your Twitch Prime sub to some Patreon that's making like 40 grand a month, like, you might want to think about giving it to us instead. That's all I'm saying. If you're really concerned about making sure that the podcast and the content that you love continues to be produced, you might want to reconsider that. That's all I'm saying. So, let's see, how far do we make it? 250. Almost made it the full 3 hours. I'm slowly working my way up here to get back to the full 3 hours of GameFace. Almost there. I have a feeling next week we'll get there because we're going to talk a long time about Street Fighter and Diablo 4. So yeah, that's it for GameFace. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We've done 3 shows in 7 days, and you guys keep showing up, and you're an awesome part of our community here on the live chat. Ask great questions at the end of the show. Without you, our show would be nothing. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to everybody who got bits, everyone who bought subs for people in our chat. Every penny matters. Every dollar matters. Everything makes a difference. We appreciate it all very much. Thank you guys. So I hope you guys have a great week. When actually does Street Fighter and Diablo launch? Do they both launch on Friday?
Street Fighter is the 2nd, and yeah, I think they're both the 2nd.
Both Friday.
Maybe Diablo is, well, no, the 2nd is Wednesday, isn't it? No, that is Friday.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Yeah.
I can't remember what day it is.
So it's going to be a long week waiting for these 2 awesome games.
Doing the show on Thursday and then the 3-day weekend, like, that my friends were off work yesterday, like, all threw me off of it. I don't know what day it is anymore.
My whole life is dependent on when I can take more pain
I won't say
pills.
Diablo is the 4th. The Diablo console tie-in bundles come out on the 6th, and that's after the game comes out.
Oh.
That's like a few days after the game comes out. I can't remember exactly
Okay.
what day. I don't know. I put the pre-order in and it tells me when it goes live. I don't know. That's how I know.
Yep. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in for the show live. Thanks again to all our patrons and the people who are pledging on Twitch with Twitch Prime. People who even just turn off their ad blocker to watch the show on YouTube. Much love to all you guys. We appreciate anything you guys can do to help us. It would be awesome. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Now you're actually going to have to wait a week before another episode of GameFace, but we'll be back with an awesome episode. So we'll see you next Tuesday at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. Until then, have an awesome week. GameFace is up and out.